And then there was no food. There was no ice cream trucks.
Now there's
ice cream trucks.
They're finally like on the GPS. We're all over. Mm-hmm. We get food trucks. The first time when Xavier heard the he's like, what did he say? There's a party? Oh no, it was a drive-by party. Oh. You know how we'd honk the horns and stuff. He thought it was a food truck because he's so used to the food trucks. Like, they'll like honk their horn as like to feed the guys that are like building.
Oh, okay.
But now they're pretty much done. One keeps on, and I'm like, damn it, I should really take advantage and be like, no, we're not eating breakfast. We're getting burritos.
We hear topics from politics, social media, academia, friends and family. You wonder about yours and their mentality. Our thoughts and actions aren't in conjunction and realize there may be an obstruction. The sky appears a different shade of blue when we realize we may be in the shadow of an eclipsed view.
Oddly shaped.
Why can't I say it?
The arsonist had oddly shaped feet.
The arsonist had oddly shaped feet. I got it, okay.
The skeleton spilled shampoo in the shower.
I was trying to remember another one, but I can't think of it. That had something to do with time or clocks or something. I can't remember.
Hickory dickory dock.
No. All right, ready?
Let's do it.
Oh, let me just fart real quick. I'm just kidding.
Was that it? Just kidding. All right. Welcome to Eclipsed Views, where we see what it would take to change our views. This is for self-help through Kaizen, a Japanese term for improvement in small increments. Disclaimer, some hard and difficult topics. If you are easily offended, this may not be for you. There are sometimes some hard topics and hard truths, and if you are not ready for it, I suggest maybe you revisit at a later time. Today we have, I'm Salvador Melendez.
I'm Veronica.
And today we have...
Jose.
Jose. Jose. All of the above. How long have we known you now?
Oh, God.
We're gonna do math now.
We all went to UTEP back in Florida.
Old Mr. White joke.
We started exactly when he was there. When he was in the building still.
It's been a while.
Yep.
At least 5 years.
At least. 5 going on 20.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Dang.
You guys.
Yeah. One more year, at least. 1 more year from now. Because you and I graduated high school the same year.
So how old were we then? But even then, I think now we've known each other longer than we haven't now, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because
y'all are old.
We've known each other longer than, the age that we were at the time when we met.
Damn, that's insane.
That's true. That's
crazy that it doesn't feel like... If we were to have been born then, it doesn't feel like the same amount of time, you know what I mean? Like, if it's 18 years, like 0 to 18, this definitely felt faster than 0 to 18, I guess. Yeah. Whatever it is, you know what I mean?
It's more fruitful.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on. Yeah, because those first 18 years were weird.
To say the least. We're kids.
Yeah.
We're kids.
Yeah, I remember less of that time. Thank God.
Uh-oh. I don't. No, I'm just kidding.
No, nothing bad. It's just funny to think about like that. Like, oh, yeah. You were kids and now we're not.
Yeah.
Now we're double kids.
Now you have kids and such.
No kidding, man. All right. I got interested in this through Street Epistemology, a mode of Socratic questioning. How did you come to that stance? Are those reasons legitimate enough to continue to hold that stance? Or is it just conjecture, forming an opinion based on incomplete information? How do you know when you have enough evidence to form an opinion? And today's topic is data versus anecdotes. And we'll start with our scenarios. You guys give us a scale on where you land on the scenario, and then we'll come back at the end, see if your mind shifted even a little bit. And just remember, Kaizen, improvement in small increments. So even if it's a little bit, is better than nothing. All right, first scenario is you're about to have a procedure, and a close and trusted friend says he had a terrible experience with it, but the data, and your doctor says the data shows it's safe. On a scale of 1 to 100, what would you normally side with? 1 being your friend's anecdote, or 100 the data?
95.
Beto?
Yeah, high up there. I'm a bit emotional still, so probably like 90. Just because like I let fear get to me.
Interesting.
And I'm like, well, there's somebody that actually went through it. And like their personal information, so then I end up, about 10% giving a poop what they say.
It's like the proximity though, Tom. So you're saying it's a friend.
Yeah, it's a friend.
So when the friend tells you and their proximity to you is,
Yeah, and depending on that friend too.
Yeah, your relationship there is the established thing that you have. Have they normally been trustworthy?
Right. Yeah. They're valid.
Or is it that one friend that you're just like, I don't even lend them books.
Yeah. They don't.
I will never lend them a DVD.
They don't know how to read. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned that too.
Person. So, like, if it was like one of my patient's parents, I'd be like, 0%.
Now, I may have friends like that too, but it's also like I tell you too. It's like, would I really consider that person a friend though? But I can't. Not that like all our friends are perfect or anything either. But even like I can't let you borrow a DVD. Actually, I can think of some that didn't return one of my DVDs. Bastards.
They're all up there everywhere.
You know who you are.
Yeah, they're listening.
Well, we even have some trusted friends that haven't given back our DVDs.
Well, do we? I don't. By now, I haven't accounted for those now.
Oh, well, I have.
Oh, yeah.
I never forget. You know who you are.
They count as gone, and like they're gone in my head. Like I don't even remember which one it is or who.
Yeah.
So, but there are some that I do remember.
Yeah. There's always those. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And you?
I'm at about a 90 also. All right. Scenario 2. Now your friend is having a procedure done that you have had. You had a good experience with it, and now the data is showing that there may be unforeseen side effects. You still have not experienced any side effects. On a scale of 1 to 100 again, should they listen to you? 1 being, should they listen to you? Or 100, should they listen to the data?
Since it's not personally affecting me, I think I would still be at a 95 with the data, but the difference in not being a personal decision, that affects my interest level, I guess, in that decision. But still, I would want them to look at the data.
Beto?
I feel like I'm at 50-50 with that one because I want to give them the opportunity. I want to share my story, but I want them to have their own opinion, and I want them to be able to make that decision since it is with like a procedure with their health or something like that. So I don't want it to come back on me and be like, it was awful and and it's your fault. No, I gave you my information. I don't want you to take it more than you should.
Yeah, so what was your number?
50?
50? No, 51 or 49. You have to go on.
Well, I think I'm pretty credible, so 51.
That's a hard one, I guess.
God, why do you write such hard questions?
To me, I more on that side that you just said that I don't want to be blamed for it later. Like, you told me like it was going to be fine or whatever. Like, dang it, no, I didn't tell you what to do. I just shared my my experience with it.
Yeah.
After that, like, I wouldn't really be hurt about it or whether you took my advice or not. So I'll still go with a 90, like my previous one.
Data driven.
Wait. So 90 means that they should take
Listen to the data.
They should listen to the data?
Yeah, data.
Data. What is it? How are you supposed to say that?
Data.
I always go by the vowel, consonant, vowel. So long, a vowel. A.
Data. A. Of not.
Date? Just kidding.
Date.
Date. Let's just say it. Like that the whole entire podcast.
Yeah.
Somebody listens to the bit all the time. What the hell's date? How do you spell that?
When did they switch to
that? Oh, that's great.
There's an online show I like watching. It's a cooking show called Binging with Babish. Mm-hmm. And he's always
I've seen that.
You've seen that one?
Mm-hmm.
Always like he always says the names of like kitchen stuff a little differently, and it's funny to track it. Like he'll say saucepan.
Saucepan.
Yeah, for sauce, like a saucepan. And like, oh, just grab yourself a medium saucepan.
You're like,
that's great.
Like,
I don't have
what?
one of those.
What is that? Let me Google that.
do you do the auto-generated captions? Does it show? Does it actually catch it? Or
I don't remember that one specifically because sometimes I'm just listening to it, and that's when I find it more interesting.
About what?
Yeah, I'd have to check that.
The outsmarted you AI take that.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Did you see the guy with that made a sweater that doesn't let like AI detect him as a person? So he pretty much put a print of like a very pixelated image that shows like a crowd or whatever, and so he kind of it's almost like camouflage, but for like urban camouflage. And so he puts it on like right in, like he gets in front of the camera, it's still detecting him. He has a little square, he moves around, and it's following him, and then he puts on the sweater, and then like after a while, like the square starts glitching, and then it just disappears. And he's just walking around like, so dang.
We should do that all the time.
Nice. Yeah, we'll get some of those.
Come on, AI, just kidding.
Get your crap together.
Yeah. All right. Those are the only two scenarios.
So 90, 50, 90.
Yeah. All right. So.
Or 95, 50, 95.
90. You said.
I think I may have
She
messed
said
up.
51. She
You
said
want 49?
Well, yeah. Think about it.
Yeah.
49.
Yes.
Lean more on your.
I don't want them to. I want them to lean more on data.
Oh no. So then
Data.
you're right.
Higher number then.
So then yeah, you want a higher number?
Higher the number,
yeah.
the more data.
So how high?
Pretty high. Let's take me at 20, so 80.
I wonder if this was your gut instinct still or not.
Oh, I don't know. Gut.
So, yeah.
That's right, we'll leave
there's the first hurdle.
Yeah. It's our show, our rules. Just kidding.
Yeah. You invented the scale. What happened to the scale you used for chewing? I like that scale.
You hated it so much.
Yeah.
I partially purposely did because I figured it would annoy you.
I liked it. I liked that part when he talked about it.
So, God damn it. So. That one was a late podcast.
Oh,
That
That
might have
one
been.
was like at 9 or 10 that we began.
No.
And so we're like at 1 in the morning.
And then we still, we still like hung around and talked after the
Oh.
recording.
Oh, God. Yeah. That was like 3 in the morning kind of thing. It
It
was.
wasn't quite that late, but
2?
it was pretty late. Yeah, maybe 2.
Yeesh.
I'm on my 18th dream by then.
I know.
All right. Merriam-Webster has data defined as factual information such as measurements or statistics used as a basis for reasoning, discussion, or calculation. And for anecdote, it only had one, but I found some other ones through Google. So the first one from Merriam-Webster says, a usually short narrative of an interesting, amusing, or biographical incident. Google had something similar to that, but it also said an account regarded as unreliable or hearsay, which I thought was kind of fascinating also.
It's kind of condescending, don't you think?
Yeah, in a way. But, like, what's his face? Neil deGrasse Tyson says, like, when people started, like, try to get picky with words, it's like, how do you define, like, whatever word? He's like, I define it however people are using it. So if people are using it this way now, then that's what it means.
Exactly.
And so I kind of, if
It's a moving target.
yeah,
It's frustrating.
So if it's that now, then I guess that's probably what it shifted to, though. Probably based on what we're about to talk about.
Could be, yeah.
All right. So we usually let our guests choose a topic. So why did you choose this topic?
Yeah, I've been a little bit. Well, I guess I've always been a little obsessed with sources. So, and I bring this up every now and then when I find a news story that's just irritating, is you often will find that several media sources can be relied on, and that's it. Like, there's really not a lot. And what I mean by relied on is their interpretations. So it all comes down to interpretation, which when you're practicing science, that's like the critical part, right? Is when you are judging based on what you've analyzed, what then can you foresee or predict, or what is the conclusion that's drawn? So when you say data versus anecdotal, I like, okay, well, that's relatable to me because, in my opinion, the data, when you say the word data, I'm talking about raw, uninterpreted, unbiased, information, whatever the topic is. So you can put a different lens around the same data group in most of our, modern topics that people would like to talk about in politics or whatever. But when you talk about anecdotal, people often will use anecdotal as data. And that needs to be, I think, there needs to be a clearly defined scope, a clearly defined lens through which you are judging that information. Because it can be beneficial, like the way your examples outlined, like, hey, man, I would trust my friends' opinions and their experience. They went through it. Why not? If I had 2 or 3, that might even carry more weight. They went through that. Yeah, sure, maybe I would do that. But then if your doctor says whatever their information is, I've performed this procedure, 1,000 times, I have a 92% success rate, what does that mean to you in the end? Who's then the more reliable? The 3 friends or the 100 patients who also went, 1,000 patients who went through that same experience? And obviously each one of those 1,000 patients will have their own anecdotal story. Even the successful ones. This procedure was successful. Oh, I didn't like that doctor. He was rude or whatever. But more anecdotal information on top of what's really the driving force of your decision. What is the thing that you're gonna latch onto to make that decision? I see that as kind of that's where we often let our biases influence us more than anything. Is I need to make a decision, so I'm gonna read a bunch of stuff, and then I latched onto this one part that I didn't like, so that means I'm gonna make my decision off of that.
Based on that, yeah. Which is typical, right? That's very typical. That's actually like a neurological process that occurs in our brain. And it happens often, is that you latch onto the negative. You go and you have a wonderful experience on this trip. There's one thing that was kind of fucked up. And that's the one that you're like, I don't really want to go back there because that one time this happened. Yeah. All the rest of the stuff was gold. But our brain does it for us. And so, yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. So that's why you chose this topic.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. I told Sal, like, I've just been thinking about sources of information and then the reliability of people's interpretations. And so, like, that's a kicking off point. I think the way you framed it was data versus anecdotal. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true. Like, you'll read a story, if it's a first-hand account, and people go, wow, man, that was like harrowing and this and that. But how often does that happen? Or is that everybody's experience? Or what are they trying to tell us in the story, really? What's the point? What's the main idea of that story? Like, what is they trying to sway you?
What is it? What do they want from this?
Yeah.
You had mentioned, well, specifically in the whole Elon Musk thing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to mention any about that? I was kind of curious as to what specifically.
Yeah. So I found that interesting too, because that just happened, right? Like, Elon Musk takes over Twitter. He announces that now he's going to charge people to put a verified check mark next to your account. So why do people find that that's something important to them to have that verified check mark next to your profile. Because most people, when you're scrolling, you type in, oh, I want to learn more about this person or this, business or whatever. Is you scroll through and you say, well, which one's the real one?
Oh, yeah.
So there's like 100 versions of it. There's a bunch of hashtags about it. But, this one has the check mark. That's the real one. So I'm going to go with that one. So versus all the other ones who they might be like spin-offs, right? They're bots or whatever they are. They like repost the same pictures that the original account posted. So that's a trust factor for people. And so he recognized that. He's like, I'm going to monetize it, whether you morally agree with that or not. To me, it's just interesting, the outrage.
Yeah.
That people are like, oh my God, why would he do that? Well, because it's kind of important.
I didn't know that people were upset about it. I just knew that.
Yeah.
Well, the article that I read, so maybe it's not as grand as I think, but I thought the article that I read said
It could be.
Yeah, it could.
It could be. That sounds like a typical issue that could occur in these times.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just the hater thing too, but Kimmel had mentioned something about it. That he's like, oh yeah, that he's going to start charging for the accounts, and that these guys are going to have videos that are only like accessible through people with verified accounts or something like that. And so he's like, yeah, well, I guess people started wondering like, oh, this content is so good that I wish I should be paying for it instead of just keep getting it for free or whatever. And I was like, freaking Kibble, yeah, like you're taking it to the extreme. But I'm more on the Elon bus than not, and so I'm kind of just giving him the benefit of the doubt that he has some other, or he's trying to do something that isn't as clearly visible to the rest of us that he's trying to fix, or I don't know. But
maybe not.
Maybe not either. But.
And then all of those websites, they all have the same thing. Like, and it all kicked off probably around the same time. Like, so verified accounts on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. They all became a thing, right? And I remember the early days of those websites too. Like everybody jumped on Facebook. And you didn't really have to worry about like, oh, this is the person, right? I'm going to follow this thing, this person. And then all of a sudden you start watching the content change and like, well, this is not, like, why am I following, like, I don't know, Michael Jordan and I'm getting a bunch of commercials for like spandex or what do they call it? Spanx. I'm getting like Spanx commercial like that. Like you suddenly realize that, oh, something changed in the way that people put together profiles. So it started to be monetized and like, oh, I'm just going to put a profile name that everybody's going to follow. And then I'm going to sell it in whatever way I want to sell it. I'm going to make some money, advertising. So yeah, that became, I think probably maybe that was the genesis, at least in my experience. That's my anecdote. That like I could watch it from here and going, oh, something happened that made verifying a profile important, and that's why they started putting check marks to verify their profile. And then when those people's profiles get hacked, then you know who's supposed to be the owner, and then you give it back to them.
Yeah, I wonder what he would do now. Like, since it's paid, like, does that mean it's open to everybody? Like, so now what if the bot version beats them to it or something like that? Like, no, we have this one now as this is the true one or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, is he going to do any more verification that way?
Maybe.
I would assume so, but...
I mean, now they have multi-factor identification for everything practically, right? You have to prove you're not a robot.
Yeah.
Then you have to, like, do an eye scan or something, or some kind of blood test, fingerprint.
Yeah, they're going to have little pics on your phone now and
map your genome.
Imagine.
I do think that would happen in the future.
You're gonna map your genome.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past.
It's a very Black Mirror. I like that.
That could be an episode of that, right?
Dang.
Although that social media episode they did do was awesome.
They've had a lot of really good episodes. I'm still waiting for if they're gonna have anything else, but they're like,
maybe
it's too real. Just look around. It's all an episode.
Open your eyes.
Yeah. All right. Next one is when should anecdotes have consideration over data, or vice versa? Is there a line there, like when you should believe maybe more anecdotal information? And
Well, I think people do that all the time, and I think I wouldn't ever put an anecdotal piece of information like down as not being important. I don't think. Well, maybe that's what I did with the score, huh? Like saying, 95% data. Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. But I think they can be very helpful, influential, because every decision is going to be ultimately up to each person. So if they want to come up with it, just because it's my view one way doesn't mean I want to necessarily tell you have to believe what I believe.
Yeah. And I guess you guys brought up kind of a good point too, that saying, is it like which friend is it, or which style of friend is it? Like, so all our friends have their strong suits, and probably they're not so strong suits or whatever. So is this something that they should be credible in this area, or are they not? Is it just kind of,
That's the word I was looking for earlier. I said validity. They're close. They're closely related. But so on that, because when I found out what the podcast was going to be about, I started going down the rabbit hole, like in my head, like, okay, what is this? But I feel like anecdotal information is a gateway to data for me personally, right? So you'll tell me something and I'm like, oh, cool. So later on, if that comes back up in my head, I'm like, I'm going to look it up, right? But that's how my brain works, is I need to back up somebody's anecdote with data, right? Like, oh yeah, my dog went to this nail salon, and I don't know, just something random, and I'm going to be like, dog nail salons?
What? That's a thing?
How many are there, and why do they have them? Like, what is this thing, So then I go down my own path of like, let me see the data. I need to know, right? And that's what my brain will do. But I don't think that, I'm not really sure. I'm curious to know how many people actually will look up something that somebody has told them. Or do they take it at face value? Oh no, Petra said whatever, so this is what it is. Ew, but aren't you you're clipping your wings there? Like, how about learning a little bit more about whatever Petra said?
True. And it might be a question of severity. So like, we all have like decisions that we're thinking about making, or that are coming up for us in the short term, long term, whatever your timeline is for. So when you start putting together your opinion that's going to eventually influence your decision, so you scan, like you said, for what is the prevalence of this in my circle of people that I'm interacting with. But like, how big is the decision? Because then that's gonna make you put more weight on the value of the anecdote, the value of the opinion, the value of that person's story, or whatever source, the source that wherever you're getting this information from, anecdotal or scientific or whatever. Like, you're gonna pick and choose, if this is a major financial decision for you or something, or a medical decision, like in some of the examples. Like, I'm not just gonna, walk up to a stranger on the street and say, hey, have you ever heard of this? Like, hey, what do you think about this? And maybe for some decisions that would work. Like, they do that for polling, right? Who are you gonna vote for? Random people. Why? Because they want randomness.
Yeah, that gives you better data.
Yeah, so when you're doing the poll like that, you're interested in randomness, because if you structure it too much, then that influences the outcome.
Yes, it's a biased view.
Yeah, but for most people, we're not necessarily looking for a bias, for a random sample. We're looking for a specific example, someone like me. What would someone like me do?
Yeah, but you end up getting skewed data also.
Always, yeah.
And because you're searching for what you want to hear rather than what actually is. And that's very, very common, right?
Very common.
You're going to look, one of our friends just had a baby, And she'll ask me questions. She asks her other friends that just had children questions instead of, well, I mean, I'm not saying that she hasn't, but maybe she could have just looked it up. But what did she do? She asked us because it's personal experience, you know? And you don't have to weed through all of the data because there's a lot of data on everything, because I feel like it's because of social media and just the outreach of technology, right? Like just a random thing pops up. Hey, take this and you'll get 5 free coins on your video game or whatever. And you're like, all right. Yeah. Right? So you do it. And so you have this enormous amount of information. Yeah. Even at that would be skewed data though, because it's all of these people with this game, you know? Mm-hmm. But that's where it's difficult to weed out. And that's how come I think that it's a gateway. For me, it's a gateway. Anecdotes are absolutely gateways into, that's something interesting I want to look up.
Absolutely. And I think if, like, the way I've been using social media recently is if I'm interested in a topic, I might put some feelers out into the social media place and say, hey, what are people talking about? And maybe that's going to lead me to do some research, some key terms, some institutions that provide services or whatever it is. So then you track it down. But it started, like you said, with, you know, give me something. Yeah, give me something that makes sense, person to person level. Mm-hmm. You know, give me an interaction. Give me something.
And you know, it could go. Ooh, that drink is spicy. It could go backwards.
Need some water, some ice?
I'm good. That would probably have been good, huh?
Splash of water in there. Take it down.
I like the burn. It's okay. It could go backwards, right? Looking at a data set. Like, an issue comes up. I'm going to look at the data. And I'm like, but where's the interpersonal? Like, what are people's feelings about this? What are people's, because I think that that's still important too, because you are a whole person and you don't only need the data, you need some like person to person, like tell me about your experience, let me know. Something stupid, I was looking up shoes last night, right? I wanted to buy a pair of shoes, so I go to the reviews because I see the size of the shoe, I see what the measurements are of the foot, but how do they fit you? How comfortable are they? True. Let me look at your experience, right? Your anecdotal information, not just the fact. Because you're going to see in that people all have different shapes of feet, right? So they're all going to fit different. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just like, okay, there's enough positivity in this. And there's some negatives, right? But like, where's the middle ground of that? That's my data set, right? The stars. 100%. And I was like, okay, so there are 50 one-star reviews and 100 5-star. All right.
Yeah.
So let's weigh that option, right? So then,
you can
then I had a data set on my shoe.
You can make your decision from there, and that's the thing, right? You're informed. You feel you're informed to a certain level. Yeah. And then you make your decision.
And of course, it's convenient, right? I'm like, I really like that shoe. All women's shoes, the majority are uncomfortable. So
just kidding.
It's really bad, guys, but they're so beautiful that we can't not do it. I mean, some of us, right? I'm speaking for myself again.
This. Yes, I've heard of this.
Carolyn Toad's wedding. I couldn't even walk around the area comfortably because I was like, oh, this hurts, but they are so beautiful. So I did it, you know.
So you ever had that where they're so beautiful?
No.
Yes. The shoes that we just got you are not comfortable.
They
look cool. They look so cool. They're not beautiful.
That's
they're
the man
cool.
version.
Yeah.
Man version is they're cool.
Yeah.
They're not. I don't know if they're.
You can tolerate them.
Yeah. But it was definitely.
You ain't gonna go walk in Disneyland with those things.
I got some Vans. I had Converse before, and I was like, I don't know if it's just been that long. Is this how Converse were? But like, I put them on.
They were a little more squishy.
They felt like they felt like super flat. I was like, damn, man, this feels like.
Gotta be able to feel the board.
Yeah. I want to feel the earth through my feet.
No, we're just talking about that. Oh, plastic insulator.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that kind of leads into the next question a little bit, what we were talking about right now. So you're saying looking up reviews. So are reviews anecdotes or are they data?
Individually, they're anecdotal.
And
Always.
collectively?
Collectively, it's anecdotal.
No, collectively it's data.
It's data. Yeah, exactly. So when you, like she said, she saw if in the example, like you say, oh, I saw 100 good things, and then 50 bad. The way where it becomes influential is in your interpretation of that data set. So you have 100 good, 2/3 positive, 1/3 negative, and then how does that influence your decision? The decision that you're trying to make based on the data set. Now, you could read each individual 100 positive review, and maybe they're all only, 3 stars or 4 stars, because that's technically positive, right? It would be above 3 stars, maybe. Maybe that's your interpretation of what makes a positive.
Depends on your data set too. Yeah. What are you looking for?
So
that's the tricky thing.
What's your criteria? What's your acceptance criteria? Is we say at work. So like, you have to develop the acceptance criteria for your I guess your hypothesis.
Right.
Your testing.
Well, like in statistics, the statistic can go either way. Now, which way are you going to word it? So I think that what you're getting at is, yes, all of the letters that they were putting there behind right under the stars, that's total anecdotes. They're all stories.
Yeah.
They're all like, oh, I like this because of whatever. I like this. I hated this because of whatever, right? So they're telling you why. It's their why. It's their story of when they used it and they got stuck in a pothole and they don't like it because the heel is too thin, right? Kind of thing. That's their story of it. But then the stars are binary. There are no half stars in this like decision making thing. It was either 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. And so it's a binary scale. Right, so then once you take all of those binary scales and you're looking at that, that's your data set. And it's randomized too, because you even have men that had purchased these shoes. And I'm like, well, that's even more random of a study. You take off the names, now it's a blind study. Right, but how did they get to the website? Where did they find it from? Was it through Facebook? Was it through Amazon? Then you have a whole different data set of who are you getting? How expensive is this shoe? Can poor people afford it? Is it very expensive? Like, where are you at? So then that's where you have more data.
Yeah, I mean, there's
data.
absolutely layers, right? There's absolute layers to all of it. You just have to figure out, like in most decision making, like we're looking for what is the most relevant to, the problem stated. Like if I'm looking through that data set of customer reviews, and I'm looking for fit of the shoe, what if 30 of those reviews happen to be like, oh, they were so fast in their delivery? That's excluded now.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with the fit of the shoe.
Yeah, it's exactly. I was going to talk about that too. That I hate when there's reviews like that I'm looking for something about the product and then they start talking about customer service. Oh, the customer service was terrible. Like there was something, like I don't know. They said it came broken, and so like broken is different from like the product, like not like
best
fulfilling
ideal.
Fulfilling its purpose or whatever. Like and so they'll mention stuff like shipping, like oh, it took forever to get here, and I'm like, why is this in the review? This has nothing to do with the product. This has to do with the service. Like, go review the service, not the
the product.
Yeah,
and that's a good point too, because that's another exclusionary data is, oh, this one was defective. Okay, but my relevance in this particular fact-finding mission is, when it works, does it work for my needs?
And that's another reason why I like to go and read the review, because I'm like, okay, 5-star, it has this many. Oh, that's fantastic. Then it's all on shipping or all on the color or something like that. Like you knew what you were, so I think that it's important to go and weed it out and like see for yourself. Not just rely on the anecdotal information, the superficial anecdotal information.
But see, that scrubbing of the data set is all too often not done. I think in most.
Oh no! Why would it be? It's a waste of people's time.
Yeah.
They're not going to pay somebody. Go and read all of these reviews. All of the other ones put to here. All of the other. I mean, that would make it a stronger.
Even to an extent, I still think people would, even if they hired somebody to like scrub that data, people would still find what they were looking for or not looking for about it. Like, oh, see, I told you it's terrible because the shipping takes forever. Like, what the hell? That's you're missing.
Because it's a convenience.
Yes, you're missing the point, right? The point was to limit limiting the products, the problem statement, and then limiting your acceptance criteria. So if the problem is, do these shoes fit? Does this brand, design, model, size shoe, does this fit the people when they order it?
Right.
What's the comfort level of that? Yeah, it has nothing to do with anything else. Like people always want to interject the other stuff, and that's where the anecdotal tends to like mislead the data, the data-driven decision-making process. So when I go to an anecdote and I see it, like, okay, I understand that. I'll order them ahead of time if it takes too long to get.
That's exactly what I did.
That problem is now solved. Now, do they fit?
Right.
Yeah.
Am I gonna get them by Christmas? I'll worry about that.
That's
later. Okay.
exactly what.
But do they fit?
That's exactly what happened.
The exact scenario.
You must have a wife.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, what if the reviews were split up into the two different formats? One that just has stars, and one that has no stars but just has all the little blurbs. Which one would you be more likely to gravitate to?
Oh, me.
Like, it wouldn't be on the, like, I would assume it wouldn't be on the same website because then you still have access to both. I guess, like, if this was a study, like, where people are reading reviews, they gave one side just star reviews and then the other side just anecdotal, like the little blurbs but no stars or anything. Which do you guys think you would probably find more
helpful?
Beneficial?
Me personally, I think I'd go to the blurbs and then make my own data set from there.
Exactly. Science.
I would take it
That's
for
science.
what it is. I'm like, okay, shipping,
That's
okay this, okay that. So it's more work, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think I'd rather have the words describing what they were starring about, instead of the stars, because the stars can be just too binary for me.
Absolutely.
And it could also be
Wrong.
They're
excellent.
unleaded.
Yeah, also
They're
excellent
misleading.
stars based on the same thing. Like, oh, they got here
that's
so
the
fast.
worst.
And,
Yes.
and like 5 stars. Like, do you even try the product yet? Like,
Have you ever read a review where somebody put like 4 stars and then proceeded to trash the whole damn place?
Yes, I've seen that.
I've
Yeah,
seen
kind
that
of,
too. They're like,
It's
or
so
vice versa,
annoying.
where
And I was like, oh, 1 star. This is a great product, but
It's like-
it
yeah,
I
but
don't
it got
even
here
know.
late and it didn't.
Yes, something.
And it was
The lady that was helping me was so rude.
yeah, there's
that
one.
too.
Excuse me, but the food was good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
They put 4 stars. They're like, oh, the food was fantastic, and then they trash like, oh, the service was slow and everything, was so expensive, and or whatever their rant was. So I'm like, I don't know how to take this necessarily because it sounds like you're giving it a 2, but you rated it a 4. So
It's confusing.
how does that influence my decision? I'll just throw that out
Yeah,
and look for
like,
the next
this
one.
is-
This is
And then it just makes me
You're-
upset at those people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what, Sandra, V, whatever, get out of here.
It's Karen. Just kidding.
So annoying. I'm like, why don't you change your
that's the
name,
Mexican version.
Sandra?
No, what would be the
Mexican.
what would be the Mexican one? What's the Mexican Karen?
I don't know. What to think about that one.
Yeah,
We'll circle back to that one.
That's all my brain can think of now.
All right, and we kind of touched a little bit on this of like if you have like the reliability of your friends' anecdotes, or even if it's your own. So, should it count as data or still anecdotal if you're giving somebody your anecdotes, but it's something you're skilled at? So if it's something like you for speech, does that count more as data because you've had so much experience with it, or does it still count as an anecdote because it's your story about the data, I guess?
I can see it on her face.
I think that it's anecdotal information.
That took a twist.
I think that it's, well, hear me out. So it's anecdotal information because it's my personal stuff. If I have all of this written down, and I have, because I do it every day, every time I see a patient, I jot down the data. right? Because data is different from what they are actually giving me or how they did it, right? There's different kinds of scoring scales that I use personally to account for all of this stuff, right? It's not just, okay, let me tell you all of my stories. It's not like that. I have to show you the actual data, and I can. So if I can do that, then I will show you the data. But otherwise, it's just a story.
Yeah.
Right? Experience does count for something different, right? So then I'll be like, okay, but I have to be able to give you data. I have to be able to give you those numbers. So 6 out of 10 of my patients present with this after, you have to word it very skillfully for it to be data. Otherwise, it's just my experience. So I would want somebody to question me, because I have the availability and the ability to do so. Because that's why I am a skilled professional. I'm not just your whoever, right? So as a professional in this field, you should be able to ask me for the data. And I should be able to either find it for you, get somebody else to find it for you, or give it to you myself. Otherwise, you're just asking me for my opinion.
True.
And so I think that the more skilled the individual, you should be able to pull those numbers for somebody. Even if it's like thinking about it, give me a minute, let me figure this out.
Yeah.
Right? And jotting that stuff down and doing it as much service as you can. I think that's what's important when you're talking to a skilled professional. Right? If you're just talking to me, Veronica, the lackadaisical, I'm like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of kids, right? A whole bunch is not a skilled number. But I have the ability to give you a skilled number. And I think that's what's important. So if I'm talking to you about something, I want numbers, right? If I'm talking to you as a skilled, like in your profession, I need to know this. Tell me. Like I was asking you about frying a turkey, and you're like, oh, okay. Look, you could do a 20-pound turkey. The ideal, that's pushing it. We want 18 and below for 3 pounds or 3 gallons of
3
oil,
gallons of oil,
right? So you're giving me numbers. Even though you've already done this, and it could be anecdotal. Yeah, you gotta buy a jug, and you gotta, what size of jug? But you gave me numbers because you're skilled in it. You know what you're doing, right? So I feel like a person can, even though that person, depending on their credibility, can skew the numbers for you, right? And then you have like this weird thing going on. God damn, this stuff is kicking in.
And that's where I think that right there where you at the end it's liquid conversation. That's like where you hit there right at the end. That's where I wanted to jump off, because the credibility question, like I want to make sure that there's a distinction. So when I'm thinking of data, I'm not just thinking of facts or truth versus like opinions. So I think that kind of can get lost in that. I'm not talking about that. Opinions are data as well. Like if it's not like a critical or scientific
the
fact,
shoe thing that we were just talking about.
it has nothing to do with what we're asking. The question is, if reliability, it's kind of a question of honesty, maybe, which is again like it's like I don't know if it's a moral virtue or whatever you want to call it. Like you're asking about integrity or So that's where like when you talk about someone who's skilled, someone who does something, or they're an expert in their field, or they just maybe they just very well known for it. That weighs heavily, right? Because that's the truth check mark on your Twitter page.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. It's like how is it that you can really, gravitate toward this as a reliable source? And we all do it.
Yeah.
We go to our favorite websites.
You question why.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah. And then that's where you say, I know that because based on the history of every time I've been to this website that I get what I'm looking for. Now there's bias in that. And there's a lot of bias in the way we conduct ourselves in those kinds of decisions. But it's influential. It can be data driven. But I guess where I'm going is that, when I look for something personally, I try to do my own version of like a holistic viewpoint. So if I'm trying to make a decision about something, let's take the shoe example or shopping examples. Mm-hmm. You'll look at the good reviews, you'll look at the bad reviews, you look at the middle ground maybe if you have time. Mm-hmm. You might check a different website's review system. Mm-hmm. You might ask a friend or two, and then you interpret all of that data that you just, dug through.
And still, I feel like it's still very dependent on your trust. Just like as you were saying, your trust in what you are looking at, who you are speaking to.
And there's a calculation for that in science. It's called uncertainty. So you always count on. And I think we do this in instinctively too. Sometimes is we're counting on people to be unreliable. So that's why you look at a larger data set. Mm-hmm. Because statistically, you're gonna say, well, how many of these people are lying pieces of whatever? Mm-hmm. And so, like, they can't all be unreliable.
Right.
Yeah.
If I look at a big enough group or a diverse enough group, then I'm going to say, well, I could probably trust this 80%.
Yeah. And I feel like, too, even if you have this information, anecdotal or data sets, depending on what you want, you're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, for some people.
I did that yesterday also. Again, with shoes. So I was looking at them, and I was like, ooh, I really wanted these, but I'll settle for these because of the price. Like, this is a much better price. And the lady's like, oh, but this kind of shoe is just, it's so comfortable. And I was like, really? Because I just put it on, and it's not that comfortable. It's really not that comfortable. She's like, well, I used to work at this store, and, we were always, I have, like, old lady feet, she said. That means that, I was like, what is that supposed to mean? And she's like, well, that they're very sensitive. Like, old ladies will complain about their feet hurting, or this and that. And I was like, huh. Yeah, I don't trust your decision. I was like, okay. I was like, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what the data says, what your anecdote says. Number one, I don't believe you because I just put it on and I tried it for myself and it's not that comfortable.
Yeah.
So you're not a reliable person to me. Mm-hmm. She's like, and several other people, like 3 other people. I was like, 3 others out of all of these shoes, 3 other people have said they're comfortable. I'm still going to get them because of the price and what they look like. I don't care if you think they're comfortable, because they are not.
Yeah. Now, would you have made that same decision if you were shopping for someone else? Someone in...
that's a good question. Wow, friend. Let's see.
Someone in the age group that she's suggesting,
No, well, number one, they're high heels, so I wouldn't have purchased them for anybody older than my age. Just kidding.
Mr. Blark.
For the price, for the whatever, and I'd probably put a note, shoe lady says. But my opinion, I don't know, for some, I feel like in some different things, you just have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, and I guess...
Of course. That's the easiest decision to make, I think.
I'm like, you know what?
If I'm choosing for me, no problem.
Yeah. But my thing is also, don't lie to me.
Yeah.
Don't just try to blow sunshine at my butt when I just did this. And I told her after, so I think I broke her spirit for the day. But I was like, really? They're comfortable to you? Because I just tried them on and they're shit.
Yeah.
And she was just like, oh my gosh. And I was like...
How dare you question me?
Oh, I know. Sorry,
question my comfort sensors.
But I know I'm all, maybe my foot is thicker than yours or something. But
let's take a measurement.
I know, and then that would be
from the inside.
That was the other thing I was thinking is maybe you both have different standards for what is comfortable. Also,
I know,
and that's hard to gauge on. That would start getting also way too much data, comfort level and all this.
Oh, she gave me a bunch of information though.
Yeah.
She was like, I used to work at this store that just catered to old people feet, and that they're all super squishy shoes, and I got used to wearing those because we had to wear them for the store. And I was like,
That's
great, lady.
That's also one
just
thing.
a long exhale.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
That's also another thing we've come across on several of the podcast episodes is that I think part of this whole like reliability and like what was your word you said, like you like credibility is that people think like your opinion is a fact, and it's very tricky with opinions because like although it is real to you, again, like this shoe is actually comfortable to me, that doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable to everyone. And like once they say it's not comfortable, like you think like they're calling you a liar, and it's not that you're a liar, it's just that it's different. And I think people have that weird wall there that like does not compute.
But even at that, like if it was going back to that same conversation with her, it could be totally different. Be like, well, okay, so even though you have the same brand of shoe, doesn't mean that it is the same shoe. Mm-hmm. Right? So maybe your shoe was flat. Maybe that one had a memory foam insole. Maybe it had whatever else different from this. This is not the same shoe that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So even though this brand, okay, let's talk Nike. Nike has several different insoles and all of that other stuff. Mine might be comfortable, Sal's might not.
Yeah.
Right? And like,
exactly.
And so that's how I was kind of like, lady, like, why'd you say anything?
You influenced my...
Well, I know, and I think it's done under the guise of trying to be helpful. Of course, that's their job.
Right, yeah.
But and that's the interesting thing about, I guess, personal experiences and having those things where people try to convey their experience, which is, I guess, what an anecdote kind of breaks down to, is like, well, in my experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times those stories, those anecdotes, whatever, can be, well, this is my experience. But keep in mind, my experience is pretty extensive. So her experience is, I worked in this specific business that has nothing to do with you, by the way. But I just want you to know about it. So you're gauging it as, I appreciate your vast experience in the old lady shoe business, but this is the wrong time to use that data, that information. So can you please just keep it,
And I think that's what I did, poor lady. But now she knows that not everybody is going to be so accepting of her opinion.
I know. I mean, but it's the application. It's the execution. It's like, why would you bring that? Why would you bring that here right now?
I know.
And it's not exactly the most helpful piece of...
And again, I think it would have helped also with that preface, like, in my experience... this is so and so, but I think I was just saying that sometimes people try to pull off your opinion as a fact, like, oh well, the ones I had were comfortable, and whereas if you would have started with, oh, in my experience those are comfortable, then I would have taken it differently than you just saying like, no, those are more comfortable than these or whatever, and like, what the hell, I just did it.
Yeah.
Now there is timeliness, I'll say that, like, so this whole topic thing kind of goes a different way when you talk about instances. So like you talked about, your first example was like the medical decision making stuff. That can be influenced also. Like if you go to this, you're gonna go have a procedure done at this physician's office, and you're like, oh, you research him, oh man, this guy was the inventor of this procedure, and he's done it for X amount of years, but the last 5 years have been pretty bad.
Yeah.
He's had within that given specific frame, again, it's a frame, it's a lens, it's a scope. That's how we'll put it. So if you look at his or her, history, lifetime experience, positive rating. The most recent, thereby the most relevant piece of information can then be, not in line with that extensive amount of history. This lady selling shoes in obviously a different store has 20 years experience maybe in the old lady shoe business. Not really relevant to what she's doing now.
Right. You just called me an old lady. You should have pulled out that card.
Oh, I should have.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, just because I want to share that.
Like we're the same age group. Just kidding.
No, she had said that she had old lady feet.
Okay.
And that they were comfortable. And I was like, maybe they're more malleable or something? Because, anyway, somebody we had gone to the Christmas fair. And there are so many booths selling like instant facial lifts and different stuff, different creams and whatever.
Creams and lotions.
And there was this lady. There's a lot of vanity stuff. Let me do your hair. Whatever. Get out of here. Your hair looks so great. I was like, well, then I don't need it, right? I was going to be a bee about it, but I was nice. No, thank you. Anyway, I'm getting soft, guys. By the time we started these podcasts, I was like, "Ruh," and now I'm like, oh no, sorry. Whatever. All these things are changing my mind. Anyway, so there's this one lady that's going, and she said, oh, can I put this cream under your eyes? And the lady's like, oh, actually, ma'am, somebody already put something 15 minutes ago under my eyes. Oh, the audacity. This other lady, the one that was trying to sell it, was like, oh, and it's not working, is it?
That's a saleswoman,
the other lady
man.
couldn't say anything. She was just like,
Saleswoman.
And I think I may have like stopped and turned and like my mouth jaw dropped like like, did you just say
you were
that?
Insulted for her also.
I was like, I can't believe oh, like what would you do, you know? I'd be like, oh, well, do you sell it? Do you use it? Because it's not working either, bitch. See if I can fix this. Boom. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Does it fix a palm to face? I'm just kidding. But it was crazy, and I just had to share that.
Cool, man.
Like, was that data? Was that anecdote? But holy moly, she ripped that poor lady,
man.
you know?
That's a sales tactic though, man. Like that's what that is. That's cold-hearted, but like I bet you that probably works for her. Because just based on like if her confidence level and just throwing that out there,
well,
yeah,
she's
probably
gonna
like,
go buy some kind of cream.
if I convince these people that what I see as a so-called like I'm in the business,
Yeah.
right? So I obviously have a weighted opinion. If I tell enough ladies that it's not working and you should try my stuff, that's probably very effective for her.
You know what I thought was fascinating though, even yesterday, is that how many people did sucker us into like even almost demonstrating or somewhat demonstrating.
Oh, for you.
I did,
Come
like
over here. And so I was like, okay.
Well, it was a tech stuff, and I'm definitely like, well, what's going on with? I don't need it, but I want to know. But and like at the mall, they do that shit all the time, and we're kind of like, oh no, thank you, whatever. And like, I don't know if we were more curious as to like the stuff they actually had. Like, is it supposed to be better than mall stuff, or I don't know.
What else? What else got you?
No.
Or what else got us? Because I thought I was pretty.
But even like, I think you still even interaction time. There was definitely more interaction time than just like, no, thank you.
They were so nice, and it's the Christmas spirit, and they
Yeah,
had
I guess
Christmas
so.
music going on, and I'm like, okay. But like, I didn't want to make them feel like shit either.
Yeah.
Because I felt bad. They're there trying to work on a Saturday, and they're there for 3 days trying to convince people that their shit's good because they need money.
Yeah.
That's what I end up feeling bad for vendors, because we were vendors, and I'm like, here's a free sample.
Yeah.
Can you please buy a bag of popcorn or something? You know, like they're pathetic, and I felt bad for her.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, I said they're pathetic, not they're pathetic. This one lady was pathetic, and it made me feel bad for her. So I went to her and I was like, I really, really don't want this, and she's like, okay. And I felt bad. Like, I felt bad for her. But I was like, I don't want that piece of shit that everybody else's hair has been in. What if they got piojos?
You know what's funny? I think that almost hurts more than just like the flat out no thank you. Like, it's almost like I was disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed in you type deal.
Wait, I disappointed her?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, God, I still never
with saying
felt
that, like, I really,
people.
really, like, you're being the
I was
extra
so
nice.
nice. Because she was like, just come follow me. And I was like, okay. And she's like, look at this. And I was like,
I think they're more...
really, really don't want this. I'm not going to buy this from you. And she was like, okay. And she was like sad. I think she was like genuinely sad.
Her eyes turned like the Japanese anime, like the big watery.
I don't even know.
No pupils.
And I was like, oh man, I hurt her feelings. Oh well. And then this other one, like I said no to, he's like, but I would do it better than anybody else. I'm sure you would, sweetie, but no. Like,
no means no.
you're gonna get 100 other people.
Should wear a shirt that says that next time. No means no, and then they ask again. Just maybe point the sign.
No means no. Don't make it weird.
Don't make me tap the sign.
But yeah, I'm sorry. That was totally off. But I had to share that story with you because I felt like, my gosh.
I forget where we were, but somebody was selling something like that at a kiosk, and as we walked by them, they are like, hey, do you want this? Or whatever it was, some cell phone plan probably. And I'm like, no, we're good. We already got one. And then I just whispered, we don't have one. we were just laughing. Like, oh my gosh.
I always, like, more recently, I know, like, the lying just works better or faster or more efficiently. But I've made it a point to, like, I don't have to lie to you. Like, I just don't want it. Like, just leave me alone. Like,
yeah.
No.
I just say we're good. Like, every time, now we're good.
Yeah.
I think that says it all.
And it's funny, like, I feel like they've tried to change their tactics too. It's like the ones at the mall are always trying to clean shoes or whatever. Like, oh, some nice shoes you have. Like, can I see them or whatever? Like, no, thank you. Like, no, dude, I don't want. Like,
I like to go ultra positive. I'm like, I know, right? And they just keep walking.
That's a good one.
You just like, I don't want to ruin your day.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna stop, because if I stop, then that's the first thing. That's their first like check mark of success.
Now your day will be ruined.
Now I'm gonna waste 25 minutes of your time. Like, no thanks, man. I'm not
That's
stopping.
another good one. If I had the time, like, let's just make this drag this out, and then you know what? Never mind. Like, I don't think I want it.
You should turn the tables on them and go up to them. And just pretend like you thought they were somebody you knew, and they're like, oh, no, sorry.
I'm just going to do that and be like, oh, it's my dementia.
Yeah.
And then walk away.
Sorry, bro. Sorry, bro.
All right.
Yeah.
So, if we continue. We're still both on the higher end towards data.
Yeah.
Get you to give them the product. Sorry. I really do like it, but I only have $10.
Say it at the end after.
Yeah. No, like, ma'am, can I straighten your hair? And all. Yes. Thank you. I need to go out, and I was gonna go to the salon over here, but you just saved me $100. And then, okay, ma'am, that's gonna be, for this product.
Or do like an IOU thing, like, but. Can you do me a solid? Like, I only have $10. Could you spot me the rest? Like, I'm totally good for it, man. I'll pay
Yeah, I'm totally good. Next time I come to the mall, I'll get you.
Yeah.
Next time. But right now, I mean,
That's for all the people's time you wasted.
Yeah.
And, you could have had some people that actually wanted it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and that's she wondered if they're based on commissions, and I guess they would have to be, but like, it's not, like, why would I don't know. I couldn't be that whatever that is if I wasn't on commissions. Like, if I had nothing to lose, if I'm going to get the same amount whether I sell a lot or a little, then why would I go that extra effort?
I don't know. They may have other incentives, but like,
Maybe, yeah.
It's just it's a different, I guess, personality type. Like, I don't like doing anything like that. Like,
Yeah,
I tend to be, again, like, I guess, data driven, but like I'll research a product that I want, and when I figure out what it is, like, I'll look at all of them, all the stuff in the category, and then figure out, okay, this is the best one for my needs. May not be the ultimate best one, like, technologically, but I'm like, this is the one that meets all of my needs and whatever, and then I will stop looking at everything else.
Yes.
And I guess that's the marketing part. Is like, I think marketing part is like, try to put the product in front of you, like, to show you the thing you didn't think you needed. Like, I wasn't looking for shoe cleaner, but now that you mention it, like, but I don't know. I feel like if I was looking for shoe cleaner, then I don't know. I feel like I would know where to find it.
And sometimes it's good that they have it there, because you're like, oh, that's right. I do need this. Cool.
Sometimes.
But
yeah.
I mean,
a lot of
sometimes those are definitely like not needs.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
But like
no,
you
there's
said,
very,
it's like,
very
oh, yeah.
rarely do we need.
is that a thing? I didn't know that was a thing. If I can afford it, maybe I'll get it.
Yeah. No, even at that, I just.
Like, there was one dude, I'll put it out there. There was one dude, and I don't remember where I saw him, but I saw him in person. It was one of those guys selling those, like, slap chop type devices.
Because you chop shit with it.
Oh yeah, because you chop.
You remember?
Yeah,
Djibouti dubs?
the Djibouti dubs. Those are awesome. I love the dub.
God, we would stay on that forever, huh?
Those guys
like
were
that's what we would do
awesome,
all
man.
night.
I wonder if they're still around.
And that food
Oh,
thing,
it's
what was
history.
that food one that we would?
Oh, I don't remember.
The mega food that they would make like
Oh, the-
pizza with burgers.
Mealtime.
Epic
meal
meal
time.
time.
Maybe those
Everything
guys
made
are
of
dead.
bacon. Probably.
Oh gosh, yeah.
They're all
Or
in the
at least had a
hospital.
coronary
They're all in
episode.
the hospital.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
they're not. I've been holding out for this.
Let's get a burger. Speaking of burgers, we'd like to thank Toro Burger
Been
today for
Eating
the.
fast food lasagna this whole time
Oh,
between then and now, and be fine.
I've been basing all of my meals on this awesome food show that I saw.
Yeah.
No, the slap chop guy though,
Uh-huh.
the epic salesman, man. That guy was the best freaking salesman. Like he, in person, like they put everything out there, and he just did everything you thought he was not going to be able to do. I was like,
Did you
holy
buy
crap,
one?
no.
Oh man.
But I sat through the whole presentation, which
You're
I
a
think is a
tough one.
success.
Yeah. At least, yeah.
I would've bought
Yeah,
it.
you're spreading the word.
It's
about
like,
it.
oh yeah, see ya. Because I compartmentalize those kinds of decisions. That's my problem. Is like I can appreciate,
Yeah.
but I don't have to do nothing.
Oh, that's a wonderful way to be. I can't. I'm like, I need it.
It's like, man, that is awesome. Good for you. See, like,
Yeah. No,
I would have bought it.
Yeah, no, it's like my knives at home also chop stuff, and now I don't have to store a separate chopping thing.
oh yeah. It's like I like using my chef knife. I enjoy taking the time to build that skill. I don't know exactly what time amount you think I'm saving, but you're very convincing, and I appreciate your skills. But like doing this versus me doing this,
Yeah.
it's saving me no time at all.
Now you have more stuff to wash.
Yeah, that's
a
it.
more complicated thing.
You guys are just popping my bubble. Bursting. Thought I needed a slap a chop.
This is the weights of all those decisions, right?
So you're not an impulse buyer.
I can be, but for like little things, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, oh, I need something. Oh shoot, they have this too. I'll get that.
Y'all are so logical.
Yeah, like she gets on me sometimes too, because I think about it. Even like once I've researched it, once I'm there, I'm still like, do I? Because there's stuff that you can't see online. Like now you're seeing the actual dimensions of it. Like, is this gonna fit where I want it to go? Is it not? Or do I have to move or adjust or whatever to make this work? I don't know.
Well, I'll attribute that whole thing to growing up poor. So like, I've walked through countless doors of just being like, that's all pretty cool. Let's go home. We don't need any of that. So like, that's all cool stuff though. It was nice that you gave us a tour of your store. You try to put a good spin on it. Like, no, we can't. No, we can't. You can have one thing, under $5.
Yeah. And it's almost, I wonder, what if they just started, like, what's your budget like? Or
I don't know. I think the opposite happened with me with being poor, because I was poor too. But now I'm like, I can get everything I want.
Yeah.
It took but I do need to reel it in. Sometimes.
I'm trying to reel it out. What do you mean? What do you mean? Okay, I'll try.
Yeah, for sure. I think
You have to buy one thing over $5 in the store. What's it?
Shit. Okay, let me try.
5 packs of gum. Just
Yeah.
6 because it has to be over $5.
Do they still sell baseball cards?
Oh.
I still have a lot of baseball cards.
do you? It's
Yeah,
cool.
old school.
All right,
Where were
since we were both, or all of us, mostly on the higher end of data, what do you think needs to happen to kind of, or what would need to happen for both sides? So if there was somebody that is more reliant on anecdotes, what do you think, or like is blocking their view and blocking our view to see more the anecdotal side, or them to see more the data side? What do you think?
I get that. I can see the question.
What do you think needs to be done to like bridge that gap, I guess?
Yeah. So I look at I view that from like a recognition of bias side. So like I personally will tend to trust the data myself and make my own call, because for the most part I don't trust people's view of their own anecdote. Like they will give me an anecdote and claim that it's relevant to what I'm asking, but it has nothing to do with what I've been asking. So you're giving me information that, while it's nice, it's not really what I was hoping to hear for the question that I'm struggling with.
The data mining part you were looking for or whatever.
It's like, I'm trying to figure this out, I'm working on this. And then they proceed to tell you a story, and I'm like, how does that apply? Like, I don't see the connection. And that's my own personal problem, probably. Sometimes I don't make those connections because I just am, like, I'm stuck. I want this information. And it doesn't matter if it's for what I'm looking for or against or whatever it is, but I'm like, does it apply? So I tend to weed it out. It's like, okay, that doesn't apply. That doesn't apply. That doesn't apply. That doesn't apply. And just give me the raw data, and then I'll make my own call. So if that could be somehow interwoven into conversations, that would bring my tendency on your score there, probably would bring it down.
Okay. Well,
that's interesting. My brain worked on the opposite side of it. So it was with anecdotes, introducing the anecdote, then backing it up with data, I feel like would help people. That's kind of what I do with my patients. I'll tell them, look, I've had success with this. And then they're like, okay. And I'm like, this is how much success I've had with this. Right? And I start to throw out their numbers. And I give them the information, like the hard fact of it. Like, there's also this amount that didn't succeed with this intervention or whatever, but this is the number that did. This number is higher than the other, right? And then do that. Or if they're very data driven, I'll give them the numbers first, right? But this is all in my professional field, not necessarily like in the day-to-day, because I think that with like friends, it's a little bit different, because you kind of end up getting into the conversation with friends. This is your whole story. This is also what the numbers look like. And usually with a friend, they're going to pry. They're going to ask, okay, well, who else or what else? Like we were talking about the fiduciary, right?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, we trust him.
What'd you call it?
Fiduciary.
Yeah. Exactly.
This is how many people. This is whatever. This is what he's done for us. This is how much it's grown. This is, giving you the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But a friend is going to ask that, right? If you have more of a superficial shoe lady, she's not going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Right? And so then it becomes your responsibility, I guess, to teach them.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I just came from the opposite side. You said the data is where you would begin. I would start anecdotal, then feed the data in.
Would that change your score, the way you rated it earlier?
For which one? For the
relying on anecdotes, or like, I guess like how would you say it? Your tendency to go
towards anecdotes or data
versus data. Yeah. Because that's how I was approaching the question. So I was thinking like, okay, my tendency is to go towards data.
Yeah, because we were all like 90s. So if somebody had scored like the opposite end, like a 10 or a 5, what would make them
go towards the center?
And I think maybe that what you just said, I think would work. Like if you still start anecdotally and then start kind of feeding data in there.
Yeah.
Then maybe.
I mean, maybe that keeps you kind of on the 50-50 side of things.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where we're all supposed to try to get to.
Yeah, and then like I'd be
I don't know.
happy with that, like some sort of compromise instead of like no my way, no my way. It's
no
like
my way, my way.
And so nothing gets done because
we have to start from scratch all the time.
I just think that it's hard. For me, it's kind of hard to put a number because I've worked with people that have both. on both ends where they're like, I don't want any of your like information, none of your opinion. I want only numbers. And then some people only want the like ethos and pathos of it, you know, of like, just tell me stories. And I'm like, but you got to know where I'm coming from.
So yeah, then I guess in those instances, like the ones that are ethos, pathos, what would help them absorb some of the data
It's
more?
starting with anecdotal information leading into data sets.
And then probably, would it work vice versa also? All the data people, like show them the data first and then start showing anecdotes?
So,
Well, let's ask you.
well, wait. Let me clarify a quick something I'm thinking. So when you're saying you introduce somebody to your topic with an anecdote and then proceed to give them data, do you think if you gave them data only, they would be distrusting of the data?
I don't know
If
if
I gave them
distrusting, but
Data
I
only,
don't know.
would they be distrusting of the data?
I don't know. Like they would question the validity of the data. Like they might say, like, oh, like kind of like what you're saying. Oh yeah, thank you for showing me your data. Your data's great and it's nice and I'm sure you worked hard on it and it's very accurate, but it does nothing for me, kind of deal.
Look, a lot of times some of the people I work with don't have the capacity to understand those numbers.
And that's fine. That doesn't influence their opinion of the data.
So I don't think that they understand the data at all without some kind of anecdotal information. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I started with the data and say, okay, 50% of individuals who they're going to be like 50.
Yeah.
And their brain gets stuck on that. Right? So then I have to change my words completely. Half of the people I work with did whatever. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I have 10 patients and 5 of them did this when I did this.
Yeah.
Right? And then now it's already leading. That data has now been anecdotalized. Just kidding. That's not a weird
Fair
word.
enough.
But it has to be broken down for some people
And that's
because
like
they
the
don't.
presentation. The presentation is completely indifferent to that. Like you can put together a PowerPoint or you can put together a slideshow or a cartoon.
You can presentate however you want.
Yeah, you may
You can presentate however you want. Would it change? I don't think that it would change their perception of the data.
Yeah.
So that's also an idea. Maybe I could lead with that. And I kind of think that it depends when you're talking to men and women.
Well, that's a whole other.
It's been.
Let's book another show.
I know. It's been very different because typically the fathers that I've spoken to need that raw data first.
Yeah, that could be
And
a tendency.
then you get into the story time kind of thing. Moms, a lot of them have liked the story time
Right.
than the information, right? So, but it's just depends.
Because that's kind of like the crux for me, I guess, is really these two topics, data versus an anecdotal presentation. They can go toward the same
Right.
point. The point is to, I think, make a decision. So if you get somewhere where I've got nothing but anecdotes, but did I collect enough anecdotes? If I've got nothing but data, am I viewing the data that I need to make this decision?
Well,
is it the right data? So I'm still scrubbing both pieces of information to make my decision, and ultimately it's my interpretation of that data. So like you're using an anecdote to interpret the data for your client. You're still using the data versus the anecdote.
Absolutely.
Your anecdote is a presentation.
Absolutely. My brain definitely goes more to the data set, right? Because that's what you're like trained to do.
Yeah.
Because that's what you have. You have that information. But then how you're presenting it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we can always have somebody in between us. That's why we trust doctors, because they've studied all that stuff. And then they present us with what they think is most relevant to what we're going through. They don't say, you don't go to their office and they put down Grey's Anatomy and like, it's somewhere in there.
Wait,
you figure that out.
Yours doesn't? Just kidding.
It's kind of like
It's somewhere.
like the top point of a
Maybe
triangle. The
it's
triangle,
Alex.
the top point of the triangle is where you're trying to get. But anecdotes are on one side and data is on the bottom. You come from a linear perspective and then you have to get to the the very tip of it.
Yeah.
But when
relevance.
you're, you know, your triangle's gonna be different.
I guess they weigh equally.
Isosceles?
I guess they weigh equally. That is kind of the point, I guess. Where
Yeah,
we're going,
like
right? They
to
can
try to get both. Do you guys think either, well, one side, or like, do you think it's influenced by education at all?
I do.
Depends on what type of education. So that can be varied as well. Like, I think someone who's a good storyteller would be very persuasive anecdotally. Quentin Tarantino or some movie star person who's very just gifted at relaying information like that, colorfully, dramatically. They could probably sell you
Vegetables?
Yeah, you especially.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Salad.
exactly. Salad. You don't win friends with salad.
You win husbands. Just kidding.
That's what you found, I mean.
That's on the contrary, right?
See? So maybe education kind of plays a factor too. Because, I mean, it could be. It just depends. It doesn't have to be like formal education.
Can I share another
Just
story?
specialists.
Sure.
Another anecdote?
Huh?
I thought it was interesting because I had asked one of my patients' moms, are you going to take your kid trick-or-treating? Because I know they celebrate. At first I asked, do you celebrate? And yeah, we celebrate. Okay. So I know it's a safe topic, right? I said, are you guys going to go trick-or-treating? And she said, no, actually, I don't know if we're going to go trick-or-treating because, you know, the news said that they're putting a lot of drugs in the candy this year. What?
Yeah, like, which data is this? Because like, there's only one trick-or-treating day for the year, so like, how are you accumulating information that
what's
this
your
is
source?
That they're doing
happening?
it. And
What's
so,
your source?
I was like, so the news channels are saying this. She said, yeah, they are. I said, oh, well, I think that's interesting. I was like, have you ever met somebody on drugs? I was like, I don't think they're going to share for free like that. Like, they're not just going to give your
They
kids.
think that's fun. Yeah.
They're not just going to give your kids the pills that they just worked for or stole
They
for
stole.
or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Mind you, what kind of neighborhood are you going to be trick-or-treating in?
Mm.
And I was like, so do you think that they would just share for free?
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my God, like, what just happened? Like, she's like, oh, de veras. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would they share that for free? I was like, I don't know with drugs. Like, I don't buy drugs or whatever. But I was like, aren't they expensive? Oh, yeah, right. I was like, isn't that expensive? Like, isn't that the whole point of why you're scared of people that are on drugs is because they have to steal your shit so they can buy more of theirs?
Yeah, even.
Or like, what? Like, I went down the rabbit hole with her and she's like, oh my God, like, why did I talk?
I feel like even
You know?
I feel like even if you were trying to get like, oh, let's get them hooked, so that they like.
How would they know what house they got it at?
No, even that. Like, how would they know what they're on? I guess like, oh, I want more of that. Like, where do I get it again? And what
Some
the
more
hell am I
bubblegum.
on? Yeah.
It just didn't
I
make
need
any
more
sense
bubblegum.
to
Every
me.
time I eat bubblegum, I go,
Yeah.
it's really awesome.
It's the best bubblegum of my
I
life.
bet I have awesome dreams.
But I threw the wrapper away.
I
How am I
can
gonna
climb
know?
walls.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So
Yeah,
I
those
just
are
thought that
fun
was
ones.
interesting too.
That's totally interesting because they run those stories on the news and they're always like, well, where? That's where I always end up at. Like, well, where are you getting this information?
Yeah.
Because I need to like that.
Even
Obviously,
the news, huh?
yeah, they can be ridiculous with some of these passed along stories, which always makes me laugh because I'm like, I read that on the internet.
Because they're reliable sources that met the neighbor that's always like, oh, always with the binoculars out the window. Like, oh yeah, that house was definitely passing out drugs to kids. Yeah, he's our
Yeah.
constant watch, so he has to be right.
Well, my neighbor said, and,
Yeah.
he's always at home. So he's gonna know who's passing out the drug candy. Yeah, man. And that's where I guess I go again. Like the reason I wanted to go down this rabbit hole was like, man, we don't scrub our sources very much anymore, especially in the internet age. Like, oh, I heard it on the news. Well, the news, I read it on the internet, and then I saw it on the news. So clearly the internet is influencing my news channel on TV. So that's not exactly the most reliable source. I'm very distrusting of my television news programs now because Like they're just reading FitFam as far as I can see.
At least here.
In our local news here, that's what it seems like.
You don't even watch the news anymore. You go to FitFam because at least the person recording it is the one that posted it.
Yeah, you're getting a first-hand account for the most part, and like, okay, at least I can say from the snippet, and then I can't really extrapolate any further than that. But if that's what they're showing me, okay, you can't deny that it didn't get caught on camera. So.
Yeah.
Right.
It's there. There's my source. There's my data.
Again, Black Mirror.
I was going to show you. I was going to send you yesterday a clip because I already knew we were doing this topic, but it was Jordan Klepper on the Daily Show or whatever. You know who he is? No. He's
I've seen the Daily Show, but I don't know that name.
It's a tall dude, and he goes out to like rallies.
Screams at people.
No, he goes to rallies and pretty much just asks them questions like how did you come to this conclusion type of deal, and
I think I see this.
And yeah, it was a recent one about with the polls or whatever, like with this most recent election, like pretty much if they don't win, that means there's something wrong, like that it was pretty much rigged or whatever. It's like, so if the outcome comes that you guys won, you accept it, right? It's like just like it all went according to plan, right? He's like, yeah. And if they don't win, like then something was definitely wrong, right? And they're like, yes, of course. Like, it's like and like even with me with the whole Trump one, like how would it they had said some other idea for a show for flat earthers. It's like should make a a reality show where they try to go find the edge of the earth or whatever. And I was like, that would be great. And like, I'm sure there's still, I don't know what it would take to convince you that it's like they could probably be pulled out on a rocket and show you like, and no, this is a delusion. The screen here is it's a screen or whatever.
That's what's hilarious about that movement in particular is what I appreciate the question. Okay, is
that's nice.
They go, okay, well, we've never been there, so how could we really know that the Earth is round? Maybe it's flat. Okay, you're about 500 years late to the argument, but let's catch you up on the data, right? Here it is, boom. In fact, Galileo was just using a telescope from the ground. And I think he put it together fairly decently, probably not conclusively scientifically, but he had some decent observations. But, Kepler comes along and does some math and stuff, and it's like, okay, we're getting this together, and then we sent the freaking people up there to look around, and they said,
there are still people up there going around.
Yeah, they're going around. And by the way, like, you wouldn't have the internet that you're posting on if we didn't already have this figured out.
Up in.
We wouldn't have that. Yeah, they're going around, not just back and forth. Like, we wouldn't have that figured
they're
out.
Going around still, but just like around the disc or whatever.
And what about the other side?
What about the people in the middle of the people around the fake equator or whatever they refer to it?
But it did make me wonder if the Earth was flat, like how what would the horizon now look like? Like how far could we actually see or not? Like, you know what I mean?
Wow.
I have no idea how to.
It'd be, and at least I could say the very our past descendants who had different theories about the structure of the universe, they put the Earth in the middle. Mm-hmm. Which you got to say, if it's round and the Earth is in the middle, the system still works. But we reversed it and it works even better, right? The sun's in the middle, not the Earth.
Right.
And everything goes around the sun. But if the Earth was in the middle and the sun went around the Earth, maybe you'd get some of the same effects.
Yeah.
If the Earth was flat, would people live on the bottom side of it also?
Not according to theirs, no. That's
so then we all live on the same plane?
It's a disc.
Well, isn't that equal? It's a disc. It's like a frisbee.
Like a
frisbee, apparently.
And do they say where it ends?
Apparently, Antarctica.
There's a wall there, I guess.
From Antarctica, you pretty much split that out, and so the whole Antarctic wall is what's protecting.
So there's Antarctica on both sides.
Like all around the edge.
Yeah.
So it's like you're peeling it like a banana, like an upside down banana, and so like it's peeling from the bottom since Antarctica's on the bottom, and so now
it goes to all edges.
Yeah, so Antarctica's on all edges, and so that's
and how do they?
You're asking,
You're asking very logical questions.
That blows my mind.
But the thing is, that's the thing is like, okay, they can ask the question.
Where's the sun?
I don't think I would ever take offense at a question.
Yeah.
But if you can't accept the results, the undisputed, like here's the data, like raw, like I'm not even having to interpret. Yeah. Here's a picture.
Yeah. Or make this work the way you're saying, like, because I saw like, did you see the documentary? I think it was on Netflix on Flat Earthers, and it had that, like, it was like flat disc, and it's like a pendulum thing on the top where it has the sun pretty much circling around like the top part, so it's still only shining on certain parts of the world or whatever. But I'm like, if that's the case, like you would still be able to see it.
And the North Pole gets sun all the time then?
Yeah,
exactly.
It was like even if that was the case, like you'd still be able to see it at all points, like even if it was more faint or not, like if that's your logic behind it.
It wouldn't dip below the horizon.
Yeah.
And then it wouldn't reflect on the moon, so then how do you...
Oh, I don't even remember what the moon was.
How do eclipses work?
I don't even remember
how do we get these lunar solar
maybe those
eclipses?
thingies are spinning at a different... What?
Well, again, it's just like there's so many disproving pieces of information, and then there's confirming pieces of information, and if you weigh that, like that's the outcomes that we get to, and then we do things like we put rockets and satellites and stuff, and then you figure out like,
are all other planets flat?
I don't know.
It started with
just us. Good question.
The election one, like if you were to take all these people that thought like the election results were faulty or whatever, you took them individually, make them count the votes. At the end, they still wouldn't believe it. Like, no, there's still some hidden somewhere else. It's like that's not the way this works. Kind of like, or like, what would you accept as, like, I don't know. I don't even know how to phrase the question. Like, what do you need me to show you that there's no hidden votes anywhere? Like, you can look wherever you want. Like, and I still think there would be nothing. Like,
well, the guy that was interviewing, they were poll keepers, like the people that work at the polls, and he's like, so do you believe in this and that, and da-da-da? And they're like, yeah, and he's like, so you're telling me that when you were at the poll, you let people go and vote poorly, right? Is that what you're saying? Like, you said that it's voter fraud. Like, you're the one that was doing it. Did you see any voter fraud? And they're like, well, no. And he's like, but the polls didn't go through. And they're like, we're not going to talk about this anymore. What the heck?
And then I used to get do your own research. Like you'll find it if you do your own research.
That doesn't help.
Like why can't you just tell me what you found? Like why do I have to go find it? For myself? Like that's not the way scientists work. Like,
I've just asked for sources.
No, this is my data. You go find your own.
I'm like, send it to me. Send me what you read. I want to know. I want to see it.
Well, even then, so that's a good point. And the way science usually works is nobody accepts one outcome of the test. It has to be independently verified. So that part doesn't make any sense. And the voting thing, I mean, that's another, it's a hypothesis. Is there voting fraud? Okay, let's go check. But do we just check one place? No, they check a bunch of places. Mm-hmm. And then they make sure that this is like, okay, what are we really seeing?
Yeah.
Is there extensive voter fraud? No. So why can't we accept that? Why can't we accept the outcome as it is?
Or what would it take? Like I'm saying, like you could have them run the polling booths themselves, and then still be like, no, like something happened, like something snuck past us or whatever. It's like, no.
In the last presidential one, they did all of those recounts, right? Yeah. So they were questioning all that stuff, but there was always one person from each party in the room. So how can you say, no, there was voter fraud, or they didn't count it right, or whatever have you, their excuses. Your people were there to verify it. This was verified. This is not an opinion. This is like...
Well, now, too, they're scanning IDs for it. Like, I don't know what...
That was the other one, too, with... Ted Cruz.
Yeah, they're not doing the books anymore. Those giant voter registration books where you had to sign upside down.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's why they scan your ID because it's in the database.
Yeah.
I think.
And I was talking to the lady at the polls because we just voted recently, early voting,
Awesome.
and she was like, "No, it doesn't matter what precinct, any time in Texas anymore.
In early voting.
Texas." And then I was like, "What about on the day of?" And she's like, "Well, we can see where your jurisdiction is." And I was like, "Oh yeah, like." I
So
just
does it
wanted to
matter
know
anymore?
more about it. That's what I was saying. So I was like, it doesn't matter. And she's like, no, it doesn't matter where you vote. And I was
Oh,
like,
makes
but it
sense.
does vote. It, like on voting day, I think that it does matter what precinct you are in.
That's what I've been under the impression of, but I don't know if I
Oh,
changed.
yeah. I
since.
didn't know
she
that
didn't-
either, but that
and
would
she
make some
didn't say
sense.
it. And she's like, but it doesn't matter because like we have it. It's
It's
attached to your
electronic.
ID,
Yeah.
and the barcode prints out. And
that
I was
makes
like,
sense.
And maybe
Maybe that's been a
the
fix.
whole.
Yeah.
that would be great.
But maybe that's the
But-
whole
If that's the way it
fear
works.
thing too. Like, well, statistically, also a lot of the ones that are contesting this are older individuals, and so maybe they're not trusting technology either. And like, I tell her too that I'm trying to keep up with the times too. I know sometimes there's some like, what the hell? Like, is this the direction we're going in? But sometimes I like to try to be a little more accepting because I don't want to be that old man later where it's like, oh, I can't trust this or whatever. Like, because there could be something that's completely trustworthy and
Yeah.
I don't believe it. Just because I don't believe it doesn't mean it actually isn't
Yeah.
true or whatever.
Well, I've said that. I don't know about belief, but I've said it. Just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean that it's not real.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there's the reality of like, especially in the political environment, the reality of an opinion that's opposite of mine is out there. I agree. Okay.
Yeah, that's a fact
That's
kind of deal.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. Now, I can accept that, and when they win office, sure. You try doing this, putting this place in order and see if you think it's that easy. Okay, but it should go both ways, and why that's not acceptable is boggling my mind, because that's how we're supposed to be, reasonably in disagreement. Sure, okay.
Yeah.
You try, then if it doesn't work, then I try. Okay, and
See,
then
we
eventually
come to the
the
same
bell.
conclusions.
Well, even if that,
Yeah.
no, we can be on opposite ends of the conclusions, but on several things. But it's more of like, the end result should be like a balance, should be like an average of things. Like if you went right and I go left, hopefully our orientation to each other keeps going to the middle, but it seems like we're going further apart.
I get what you mean, yeah. And yeah, that's why I've put a little more importance on compromise too, even sometimes in work situations or whatever. Like, I don't want to be that guy that's going to be seen like, oh yeah, this guy's like extremely difficult to work with or whatever. So like, all right, like where's the middle ground here? What can we do either where we're both happy or we're both unhappy, but like...
Yeah, and the funny thing is, you can ask some people on like the political landscape that are on opposite ends, and they'll both tell you how terrible the country's going. They'll say, "Oh, this is so terrible." Okay, that's your opinion, and you've cited a few facts that are out there, but your interpretation of those facts is that it's not going the way you think it should go.
Correct.
Great. Okay, now what are we going to do about it? Well, you want to do this, and the other side wants to do that. Okay, but what is the reason behind that? Why do you think that those things will improve the landscape of the country? And that should be the goal, right? We're all just trying to get better, whether it's your take on things or mine. We're supposed to be trying to get better, but if we can't agree on what better is,
that's, I think, the other...
what the ultimate top, like she said, the top of the pyramid or whatever, like whatever it is, the outcome, the end result, you can take whatever path you want to get there as long as we get there.
Yeah, I've told her too that I feel like I could do both roles, like either leader or follower, but I think when there's either too many people trying to be the leaders or everyone just being the follower, like there's no direction. Like either we're trying to go everywhere at once or we're going nowhere at once.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think, like you're saying, like I think we need to have a common direction as to where we're going to go and why. Why is your plan going to work better, or no, like this plan work better? And even sometimes I feel like both of the sides like kind of sometimes have or want the same things. It's very overlapping. It's just in the way they want to do it, and then they're just diehard about it. That's where they're not willing to compromise. Like, no, we have to do it this way. And then the other side's like, no, we have to do it this way. And so again, there's no compromise there, and so we're just still stuck in the same.
Yeah, if your rationale for not wanting to go the direction I want to go is, well, I don't want to go that way because you want to go that way.
That too.
Like, well, that's not grounded in anything really. Like, you're just wanting to be disagreeable, and that was never really the intention of like the politics or anything for that matter. Reasonable discord. Like, hey, we're trying to get somewhere. How we get there was supposed to be the opinion side of it.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to go your way and I go mine, we'll at least end up in the same place. Fine.
Yeah.
So I'm going to interject real quick because I looked up the stuff. I looked it up on 3 different government sites.
Okay. Voting stuff?
Voting information.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, if your county participates in this thing called County-Wide Polling Place Program, it started in 2021, then you are eligible to vote wherever in that city or in that county.
In the county.
So are we?
Yes.
Wow.
El Paso is a part of it.
Cool.
So it looks like
So this coming voting day?
you can vote wherever.
So you don't have to like
This Tuesday?
rush to your area or anything like that?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, that's
cool.
convenient considering that like some people work on the west side, but they're supposed to vote on the east side.
Well, then the lines.
Just different.
The lines,
true.
it always seems to happen.
But they
on
still
voting
do
day.
say
Lines go crazy.
to look up where you should vote, and it'd
Have a
probably
backup.
be the most convenient thing.
True.
But just with your ID, and it'll pull up. It populates what district you are in, and who you can vote for. Right?
Yeah.
Because since we live
Some
in a
of the-
certain district,
the
we're not allowed to
district-
vote for another district.
The district reps, yeah.
Representatives, which kind of sucks because
Yeah, some of the
I have some opinions
on the other districts.
on the other districts.
They need to get their stuff together.
They sure do.
Yeah.
That could
Some
I have-
regions are poor for a reason.
Well,
Their representation just isn't doing what they need to be doing.
yeah, that's and that's the importance of voting, right?
Right. And at the same time, when you get poor people in that thing that don't have the ability to vote or
They
don't
don't-
have the education or
They don't put
the
the
voter
emphasis-
registration or anything like that, then why are they
Yeah.
going to vote? So then you have some representation. They didn't even know that they were being represented.
Yeah, and that's a trick. That's a thing, too. Yeah, and like
Sun is hitting me.
you can throw all those data points out there too, right? Like, what is the voter turnout? What is the likelihood of voter? The probability of someone in a certain economic bracket to vote because of the various, things that are happening with them socioeconomically. And then that's how they predict these elections. That's why people think it's going to go a certain way. And then they rely on the influence of that in the media. Like, oh, the media says so-and-so's in the lead. I guess I don't have to vote anymore because they're going to win.
Yep.
The influence is my bias.
Yeah, then influence has a freaking huge role, like in the way it shifts your perception. Like even like think of when we watch movies and then you hear a review about it, it already like influenced you a certain way. Like,
I'm not going to see that.
Yeah, or even if it's something you're gonna see anyways, and you're like,
Yeah.
now you saw a review, now you're kind of slightly like, I guess I better watch out for that or be prepared for this or whatnot, and like you're not going in fresh-minded anymore.
I'm not as excited anymore. I'm like,
Right?
I thought they were going to do that part that I wanted.
That's the same thing with trailers.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're sitting there in the movie waiting for that one part. Who said this? They're sitting there
Trevor
waiting to... Trevor Noah, that's right. You're
Oh.
waiting for it to come out and it never comes out. And you're like, what the heck? Where was that? I'm
True,
getting hungry.
true.
All right, should we
Where are
wrap
we
this
at?
up?
Yeah, where are we at? Time.
2:28. All right, let's
Not
wrap
in the
this up.
morning.
Not in the
Not a.m. I'm awake.
All right, just any final takeaways or actionable steps that people could do to
Creative ways
maybe-
of communicating.
to start compromising a little bit that you may not your way may not be the only way.
My way may not be the only way.
Or even like, well, I guess realistic. If you're
Wait a minute.
If you're the data-driven, how do you pay more attention to anecdotes? And if you're anecdotal, how do you give more value to the data? Anything?
Questions, I think, is my way. And I think I've given that advice a few times. And I'm like, that's the only thing I can say is asking specific questions, or trying to be a little bit more understanding, because I think if you're data driven, the tendency is to just, well, I'm just going with that. I'm going to be hard-hearted about what I see, and that's it. So that shouldn't be the case either. So it should be more about understanding from the other side, from the other perspective, like you said, someone ethos, pathos, that kind of more of an emotional
balance.
decision maker. Like, there's reasons for that, and those can be, even if that person is not aware of that, you can find common ground. Like you said, put a little more emphasis on compromise, and that's something that I've tried and done and adapted to. Might help.
Definitely. Incorporating the both. Creatively. Oh, I can't use my words. Creatively. Communicating. Seeing how the other person is responding to it. Asking them if they're understanding. Asking them if they want more information, just like you were saying, questioning. And trying to make them feel as comfortable as possible with it. Right? I'm not just going to present everything with anecdotes, but maybe throwing in some of the data for the person that is more anecdotally influenced, right? And then on the contrary too. So giving the person that's more data based that information, and then some supporting comments. Or a little bit of like, hey, yeah, I know this person and this is what happened with them with this. Right? Just to humanize the data a tiny bit more. If they don't need it, then they don't need it. And if they don't care to take it, that's fine also. But it's there. That way you have a good balance of the both. Mm-hmm. But mostly listening to the other person and what their needs are, I think, is important.
And in the case of the shoe lady, pulling up the applicable.
Yeah.
So the applicable example. Don't use the spoon to slice the steak.
Right. And in hers, I think that I kind of feel like I maybe taught her that your opinion is your opinion, right? And you said that you've been doing this for over 20 years, but only 3 other people have told you this. Yeah. 4 people total compared to the stack of shoes that are here right now. Maybe your opinion isn't always going to work on somebody.
True.
And just learning, I feel like I wanted to teach her that. Like, it's not always going to be that way. Like, listen to the other person. Listen to what the other one needs, right? Because I just put this on and I said it doesn't feel comfortable. But yet you're like, oh no, a lot of people think that they are comfortable.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's your opinion, right? And just, I feel like it has to be more self-driven, too, is me not being affected by it. Me having the realization of, I'm buying these shoes, they're not that comfortable, but I wanted them because of whatever. Now, you made your bed. Don't complain about it. I'm not going to blame it on this lady saying, oh my God, she said it was comfortable. Come on now.
That actually kind of takes me to mind, too, is that was going back to our first episode, is what does it mean to be wrong? And I think a lot of people are just that uncomfortable being wrong that, I don't know, they just they don't handle it well. And so if they were wrong about like the candidates they're choosing or the shoes you chose or whatever, it's like I don't know, it's just
and just take acceptance. I accept my decision, right? Accepting your own decision will help you not try to point fingers on a person's anecdotes.
Yeah, so I guess even with that, like it's okay to be wrong. Like there's maybe we need to reduce the stigma with that it's okay that you made a wrong decision. Just learn from it, try not to make that
Well, there's baby steps.
mistake again. Yeah, and there's
baby
that
steps
was
with
Kaizen. That was our first
There you go. So,
improvement through small increments. Like,
Your
doesn't have to
Kaizen
be-
experience would go in to apply it to like what you're saying, like not being able to not being able to admit being wrong.
Mhm.
Most of our decisions are not right and wrong.
They're not.
Most of the
It's your
things that we do,
decision.
as people on a daily basis, our interactions with everybody, the things that we choose. But there's better, there's best, there's applicable, there's not applicable.
Mhm.
Like, oh, that's a good decision, just not for this situation.
Mhm.
Like, oh, and if you want to pick a great pair of shoes, like you made a decision. There's some that's more expensive. There's this price point, but this one works for me.
Yeah.
This is the
Or-
best version of this for
Or
me,
for this situation.
or for the
Sure.
situation.
Yeah.
The
Sure.
comfortability situation. Like,
Yeah, you're getting these shoes to be walking around, or you like a lot,
Or
you're
to
gonna
sit
just-
down.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with them?
Yeah.
That's your decision.
Do you need them to look extra fancy? Is it a fancy event, or what is it?
I gotta say, like the one of the most interesting women's shoes related phrases that I heard was, "Yeah, but I'm only gonna wear them for like an hour." Or whatever, that it was a short period of time, and I'm like, I can't argue with that. Because like as a guy, I'm like, that looks so uncomfortable. Like I would not compromise comfort. But they're like, okay, that's your choice, go for it. I can't argue with that. Like you've decided, you've established your criteria, and you've made the choice.
It's a thing. How
it.
crazy. It's like, it's real. Because like, I'll buy a pair of shoes and I know they're not comfortable. And before we leave the house, I even warn Sal, like maybe days in advance, I'm going to wear these shoes. I need you to walk real slow next to me. And he's like, well, God damn it. But I put the bear in the room. Like, there's a bear in the woods. And you are going to have to do this because they're really beautiful. And I'm going to wear them. But I'm going to need you to sacrifice your walking speed.
There you go. Yeah.
And, so there's
like the heads up.
communication again, right, with your
Communication.
spouse. Because if not, and I'm just like, oh, I'm going to wear these. And he's like, well, you're going to fucking walk on your own. Because you're going to look like baby deer. You can't walk in those. I'm not going to help you because you didn't ask. Like, so there's different
It's not that I
communication.
wouldn't,
Nobody would be
so-
pissed off doing
Yes,
it.
that was good.
But you learn your spouse. You learn your
Yeah.
crowd. You learn your friends.
Yeah.
And
I'm all about like you establish the criteria, you've determined what the success is, and your acceptance level. If we can execute to that, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
But if we can't agree on those terms first and
Yeah.
foremost, like,
And I think like be
Stalemate.
comfortable with your decision. Like the possible outcomes. Like you want one more than the other, obviously, but just be okay with the other possibility or whatever.
Yeah.
And, I've started using that with administrators, and it's worked really well. Like sometimes it's like they want us to make the decision, and then like if it backfires, like they want to blame it on us. But I was like, all right, I just want you to know, like if we do this, there's a chance this could happen, and if we do this, there's a chance this could happen. So what do you want us to do? And then once they kind of
you've
it feels
taken
a little-
away,
yeah,
and
it
that's
feels a
actually
little
really
more-
good
yeah.
because you've taken away some of the extra possibilities. Because sometimes they have no idea, right? Because that's not their scope. That's not what they do.
yeah.
And so when you're like, this is choice A, this is choice B. Which one? I feel like you take a lot of the uncertainty out of it. So I would appreciate that too.
It's an appropriate frame too, because you're also adding in, there's acceptable negative outcomes.
Yeah.
So once we agree to this is gonna be a possible negative outcome, is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Because there's always the extremes, right? There's like, well, we all know if we do this, there's a maximum positive outcome
Yeah.
that we would love. That would
Yeah.
be great. Now we're gonna
But-
probably land south of that. How far south?
Yeah. Right.
What's acceptable?
How big is the gamble? Pretty
Yeah,
much.
exactly. We're doing risk and ops here. Risk and opportunities analysis.
Yeah.
Remember that game? I think you were a part of it. I hated that game.
Risk?
That one behind you.
Oh, that. Yeah.
Do you remember us playing that?
Not really, but it's probably
I think
happened.
it was.
Selective memory?
Might
I
have
think
been
it was
Alex.
you and Alex. I don't remember, but it was
The apartment.
awful.
Yeah, anyways.
Probably not.
That was worse than purgatory.
All right, so let's go back to our scenarios, see if they shifted at all. So scenario 1 was you're having a procedure and a close friend says they had a terrible experience, but the data shows it's safe. We were at 95s and 90s. Has that shifted at all for anybody?
Nah.
No? Still?
Don't mess with medical.
Yeah. No,
Little?
I'm not shifting much, I don't think. I mean, maybe a teeny tiny bit. No. No.
Nope.
That was a slow walk down. No.
It's because I
No.
want to. Honestly, what my brain was doing is I wanted to take their opinions more into consideration. Because I want to know your experiences and stuff. But at the same time, sometimes that's just more of a fear tactic to me. And it ends up scaring me instead of
Yeah.
knowing the actual numbers.
Yeah.
You know, so fuck other people. I'm not listening. I'm just kidding. I'm not listening to you and your opinions.
Well, and there's also like the framing of the question also leads to like, well, if we're gonna speak in generalities, right? So, are there things that friend could do to improve the weight of their influence of their anecdote? Yeah, absolutely. You could tell me we're going to the same doctor. You could say that you did it 6 months ago. You could
Right.
say a few other things possibly that they would be like, wait a minute, let me double check.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now there's weight.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think I'm at a safe number. Wait, what am I? I'm at
90.
90. I think it's the same.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the same.
I'm going to change mine, actually. I'm gonna go
Kaizen?
85. And I think that what changed it was the reviews. Like, that if we just had one that's just stars and one that's just the blurbs, I probably would lean more on the blurbs than I would on
The stars.
than the stars. And I know it's not the same. Like, this is definitely like a health one, but I think it's
But still,
enough that I'm like, I think made me realize I do pay attention to more blurbs than I thought I did, I guess.
well, it just as Jose was saying, that it changes the bigger picture, the bedside manner part of it.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a better bedside manner. Maybe the other one doesn't have as good a bedside
that
manner.
tracks.
Depending on what your diagnosis is, do you want somebody with better bedside manner, or do you want somebody that's just going to be like, no, whatever?
And I think that depends more on the person and what they're willing to tolerate. Because
Right.
I would definitely take a highly skilled doctor that has terrible bedside manner over a doctor that has great bedside manner but isn't as skilled. You know what I mean? Like, I could take the beating, like, oh yeah, you're doing terribly, and this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, and you're gonna have a terrible time or whatever, and like just be very blunt and like, okay, I can.
And that might work for a
Yeah,
person
yeah.
like you,
Yeah, that's what
right?
I'm
But
saying.
my mental health would suffer greatly if I
Yeah.
had a doctor like that. So I would probably be better off with a doctor that has a teeny bit less skill in I don't know what, but with a better bedside manner. Then I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna get through this, right? And your perspective changes in that.
And-
So like it's person to person. It's all different.
That's funny too, because that still reminds me of the reviews that like I'm going based off of your skill, not your like. I think your bedside manner has nothing to do with your nothing to do with your skill, but like yeah, you're gonna talk to me like shit or treat me like shit. Fine, you already did your thing. You did your thing that you're highly skilled at. Like, I don't need you to really tell me anymore. Just let me be, kind of deal. Is that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm still leaning towards the Jose aspect of the holistic manner of like the whole person.
Yeah.
Right? Because I have to have a good balance of that for me to feel okay. Me
Yes, yeah.
personally, right? I don't think that I would do good with a beating like that. I would probably be like, oh my God, and my brain would run away and I'd die
Yeah.
like sooner because I didn't have that support.
Fair enough.
Right? So I think it just depends on person to person. But yeah, the blurb's still,
Yeah.
blurb's better than stars.
They're helpful. They're more helpful than I was giving it credit.
What's the next one?
Then the other one is kind of the same, but
the flip.
Yeah, now you're giving your anecdote. You have a good experience. Somebody's going to have a procedure. Somebody else is having a procedure done. You had a good experience, but now the data is showing somewhat opposite, or like, what is it? You still have not experienced side effects. The data is now showing there are unforeseen side effects. You still have not experienced any of the side effects. So on a scale, should they listen to you, the anecdote, or the data?
Oh, I was at 49 or 51.
No, you ended up changing. You were at 80.
I was at 80?
Yeah.
After you.
Yeah, because I think we had some
That's
struggles with the scaling
I was
aspect of it.
confused. I'm always confused with these things. I need to pay better attention. I know, maybe a visual aid for me. Modify this for me.
To have it blindly like
over here up on this thing.
That too. But blindly with we all write down our numbers and then reveal them at the same time. Because I think sometimes we may be influenced by each other's numbers also.
Well, you can do this other thing too. Like I did a job training on this technique where like we come up with a scale, but I think they use a deck of cards. So you give everybody like 1 through 5 on a deck of cards, and then they just hold up their rating.
That's clever.
Yeah.
I like that too.
So like you can do it whatever number scale you want, but just hold it up and then just think about it later. That's a job thing that we did.
Okay, so I don't understand your wording on the end of it, the scale. So on a scale from 1 to 100, 1, they should listen to you. Okay, 1, they should listen to you.
One
or
is anecdote.
100 to the data. Okay, so
That's why
now
you
can
went
we
to
discuss
80.
this one just a little bit more?
Sure.
Look, that skews me. When all of a sudden they're presenting me with data on this, say I went and got a rhinoplasty and they're like, oh my gosh, now your chances, the data says that now your chances are your ear is going to fall off. And I'm like, well, fuck, my
From a
ear
nose
hasn't
job?
fallen off. It's not loose. My ears are fine, right? Or like just something random like that.
Yeah.
Now I have a fear tactic. Now I'm scared. Right? They've put me on the complete opposite end because I've already made this fucking decision.
Who's they?
The person that is considering getting rhinoplasty.
Okay. Yeah.
The person that is considering getting the procedure
that
done
you've already
that
had.
you did. Okay? Let's talk something that we know. LASIX.
Okay.
Right?
Been there.
We have several friends that have gotten LASIX.
Mhm.
And you all swear by it.
It's awesome.
Because there haven't been any side effects like listed or whatever, right? So then I come to you and I'm like, look, so they said that in 2 more years, you're going to be going blind.
Ooh.
So how does that make you feel? You're like, oh, fuck. Well, I've already done this. And look, I don't have any side effects. Let me tell you all the positives. But the data says this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Should I get it done still and have 5 good years and then on my 7th, 8th year, I'm going to go blind? What do we do? Right? Because we're talking trusted sources. Our best friends have had this done.
But are they LASIK specialists?
Let's say one is and one's a Groupon.
They took it in the
Groupon?
garage.
I don't know, but
No,
I'm
I
just
mean
saying,
your friends. Your friends.
Yeah, they went to specialists.
So is your friend actually employed as a LASIK specialist?
No, they are
LASIK doctor, eye doctor.
No, they're considering getting it done. I'm considering getting it done.
Just putting them on their playing field.
Yeah, he's saying like.
So if my friend
he's
who
telling
gives me
you
an
to do it,
antidote,
yeah.
he's a doctor of eye doctor or whatever who actually and who has also been a patient, that would be like an elevated source. Right. I know the procedure inside and out. I've performed it and I've also had it.
Right.
That would be different, right?
Uh-huh.
But if all the friends are on the same playing field, like they're just patients who've gone through it.
I'll probably give you the exceptions. Like these people are going blind because of or secondary to blah blah blah. They didn't do this during the procedure, or they're doing something else after the procedure, or I don't know. Because you know how sometimes headlines are, they're just trying to get you to click on it anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's my thing is like, now, but I would.
Well, I'll give you
a lot of people are going to feed you the information out of fear.
Yeah. That's true. So, like, I took Sal's, the example that he presented as, okay, I have an experience. It was positive. The data is showing that experience is not as positive as I had previously thought.
Mm-hmm.
So now my friend is going to go through it. What should I do? Or how should they balance the weight of my experience versus the data? Right? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you? Like, how does that shape your
maybe,
opinion of your own anecdote?
I guess maybe I would hope, again, for the compromise, like do a little bit of both, like still get it, but maybe wait it out a little bit till they figure out what the hell is going on. Like, don't get it as soon as you were.
Let's take a lower stakes example then.
Okay.
Like, I bought a car. I have a
terrible decision.
Yeah, terrible. It's a terrible
Don't
time.
you know how much taxes are right now?
It's a terrible time. The interest rates are big. There's no stock. Okay, let's say. Okay, I bought a car. It's this. I'll use mine. It's a 2012 F-150. But let's say I went and bought a new one. I bought a brand new F-150. I'm loving it. But a couple of friends we know in another state said, okay, yeah, we bought one too. Horrible. Like, we drove it off the lot and it had all these electrical problems. We took it back. They didn't want to fix it. Don't buy it. What would you say is the weight of my experience versus theirs? And the fact that the dealership says, well, this is a known issue. This happens sometimes.
To me, that's a big one for me. Like, give me, like she just did, the bear in the woods. Like, just tell me ahead of time. Like, I don't want negative surprises. Like, I want, like, I know they may happen, but, like, just tell me, like, this one is known to have electrical issues. Cool. Now I know that. Like, I'll take that into consideration and make my judgment off of that. Like, if I still like it enough that I'm willing to put up with that, then cool. Then that's on me. That was my decision.
I definitely go to the reviews. My decision would be made more so based on your experience, because I trust you, than their experience, because I don't know them. Right? But then once I have a big data set and enough information, and the vendor, whoever is selling it, saying, yeah, sometimes, I need your definition of sometimes. How many of these are coming back? How many do you have in stock? How many did you sell? And how many came back to you? Mm-hmm. That's going to determine where I'm at, right? I wouldn't just be like, oh, no, well...
I mean, in most cases,
maybe
right?
you got lucky.
Yeah.
In most cases, yeah.
And I would say, if I'm bringing it up to the dealer, I think that's validation enough. Like, I'm not ignoring it. Like, hey, my friend just got this, and they said this is happening. Like, and then they tell me, like, oh yeah, electrical issues are a known issue on this. I think that's validation enough that I took it into consideration. If I would have just like not mentioned it, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, I'm not gonna even mention it or whatever, because then I feel like I would still be totally data side versus, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that's that anecdote is the little blurb in one of the reviews. Hey, this review says so and so. Can you explain or elaborate on this?
But again, here we come to the person telling you this. Mm-hmm. I feel like they wouldn't. They'd be like, oh yeah, just a little bit of issues, sometimes it's... And I'm like, okay, I want to talk to a mechanic. I want to know what exactly is happening, because I don't believe you, because you're trying to make $1. Right? So then I'm trying to see who the person is that I'm communicating with. That is it the salesperson? Because they're going to blow sunshine up my butt. Yeah. Because they're going to get a nice paycheck because they're selling this. Right? So I want to talk to somebody that is not getting my money. And so that's where I'm very skeptical. Because a car is a big thing.
Of course.
Those are, God, they eat so much of your money.
Yeah. But that's like, I think, both examples, the medical one and this one, kind of lead towards where people think yeah, you probably want the data hand in hand with some user experience. Now, I guess the question then comes to like, which was the most influential? When it comes to a personal decision, I go with data. Some people go with anecdotes. Great. When it comes to me influencing someone else, like I want to influence them with data, not always with anecdotes. Like the anecdote is just a cherry on top part. Like I'll tell you, hey, look, I have this car. Don't take my word for it. Here's all these other reviews. Here's some statistics for you that say, you know, the reliability, whatever. Do some of them have it? Yeah, but when you get that issue, here's what you do. It's already known. That means there's a fix. So usually there's something to do. So like, would you take that? It's not an anecdote. Like I'm giving you, this is what's available information.
And I feel like the person on the receiving end of that is going to pick and choose who they're communicating with for that information. So I know if I need to talk data, I'm going to talk to you. Because you're going to give me the facts. Right? Maybe not a whole lot of the ethos, pathos in it. No. I'll talk to somebody else for that.
I guess.
Yeah.
How important is it to you to influence the person? So, like, let's say you're using data because that's like your preferred method. So
That's a good question.
And so, like, let's say you know this person is definitely more influenced by anecdotes. Would you switch your tactic so that they do change their mind, or would you still stick to the data?
That's a good question. I probably would. I would say like what you said before, like you're going to layer the data into an anecdote. So I give you my experience and then I say, oh, I looked up a bunch of stuff about it. And then I give you the rest of it.
That's establishing your credibility.
Yeah, because that's exactly it. Because like I'm not basing, like my opinion is, this sucked. Yeah. I had to do all this stuff. It was inconvenient. But did it get fixed? Yeah, it got fixed.
But you see, that's the part that I would want to know. So me being your friend, I'd be like, okay, tell me about this. And so you'd give me data. Yeah. But because I know who you are and how you work, okay, tell me your opinion on it. And your opinion is like, well, it sucked because I had to do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't have to. I feel like in this whole conversation, I end up feeling like anecdotes and data end up being more of a collaboration instead of a versus, because I feel like one without the other is empty. If you have all anecdote, you just have a pretty story and you have nothing based on it.
Perhaps.
If you have all data, then you just have numbers with no opinion.
Yeah.
And it depends on what you're trying to get to, but if you're trying to get to this nice happy medium, you have to have a little bit of both. Depends on, right, how you layer it in. You can have some more of this and a little bit less of that, but I think that you still have to kind of have just a teeny tiny bit of both interacting with each other to make an impact on a person's decision.
So, like, then what would be a purely anecdotal piece of information? That'd be weird, because I could see where data would be part of an anecdote and carry some weight. But then what's the purely anecdotal?
The purely anecdotal could be
something
a
super new,
fashion
like,
opinion.
Well, I was going to say something like super new that there isn't much data on. Like you were being, we ordered new iPhones, and she was being swayed by the fact that like they were the roller coaster thing or whatever was setting them off or whatever. Mm-hmm. Remember? And so I think that was too new to have enough data, or like I don't think that data was going to stay consistent. Like a lot of the new phones always kind of come up with some bugs, and then like they weren't anticipating, and then they fix it, and then now it's fine. So if it's that new, there really isn't much data to go off of, so you have to go purely on anecdotes, and that's what that one was. Like you're just going based on people's stories. Oh, so and so said this happened with their phone, and so also said the exact same thing happened with their phone and whatever. And so now that's just purely anecdotal without much data.
True.
You know what I mean?
That could
Right,
be,
but there
that could
still
be a
are
factor.
numbers. But there still were numbers in it.
Yeah, but that could be a factor, because he's saying that the thing is the history, like how far back do you look? So if that's if that's a criteria for acceptance, like you need to establish enough history.
Right, and
That's
with that,
an anecdote.
the thing that I had read, I was like, ew, but what about this? Because 6 people had said. I'm like,
Is 6
okay,
people enough?
you have 6 people out of hundreds who have this. It means that it happening is very minimal. Or people are just aren't saying anything. And it's an easy fix. So yeah, you pick up your phone at the end and you're like, oh, hey, yeah, sorry. Right? And they've already sent emergency vehicles. But now that the software company knows about it, and like now that they're going to do something about it. They have to.
Yeah, there's no way they would
because
just,
you're wasting precious resource, because emergency stuff is precious resources. We don't have much. And then all of a sudden you're sending them to theme parks. They're rushing in 5 times a day because their iPhones are going off. Oh, that's some bullshit.
Yeah.
Even then,
Let's fix this.
That's more on the image
That's
on the
a hazard
company
one.
too.
Exactly. And so that's how come I was like, well, do you support that? Do you support whatever? But I still feel like there was a lot of data in that.
Sure.
Purely anecdotal, going back to your question, would be like, I want to say it has to be something that's just
Opinionated.
total opinion. Look, I got this one sticker, and ever since I got this sticker, it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And?
It's only
Are you
relevant
telling me that I
if I
should-
also think it's wonderful.
Yes. I think that's an anecdote.
Okay. That
To me,
makes sense.
that's purely anecdotal.
Yeah.
If I was telling you, hey, ever since I got this sticker, I feel like it's magnetizing my water, and all of a sudden I have this so much energy because just something else.
Because it's a goop product.
It actually reminds me. I had looked up an article too. And
Well,
it
that's
said-
valid. I like that. The Gwyneth Paltrow brand. Have you
Oh
seen that?
gosh.
She sells like the stuff that's like, you just wear this, and like your cheese now better or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, we got
only heard of these
at the
things.
Christmas fair. There was we're gonna lose listeners on this.
Oh,
It's
Something.
all right.
They were
controversial.
crystal infused soaps.
oh,
Ooh.
interesting.
And so now it's supposed to make you it's supposed to make you better.
Yeah,
Cool.
but there is validity in, like we talked about, that holistic type medicine. People when they take the placebo effect, right?
Yes.
That kind of thing. That's where I was going.
Yeah, placebo, definitely.
If you think it works, maybe it works.
Maybe it works. And maybe that gives you that thing, the confidence boost that you needed. Get it. Go
Maybe,
and buy
sure.
that bar of soap.
Right. Anecdotal. It's anecdotal.
So, I've gone down the rabbit hole with that stuff, and I've looked up data. I'm like, okay, so how much energy does a crystal possess? That's another topic.
Yeah, but I get that as being anecdotal too, because that it could be valid. It might be helpful, not conclusive data wise.
Right.
But if you like it, I guess it works for you. If it's relevant to you,
Do it.
if you like the sticker the same way you like the sticker, I guess.
Yeah. And that's where I feel like
Okay,
a
that
complete
can be-
anecdote is an opinion.
It's an opinion. Maybe.
I mean, it's your own personal truth, but that's
Okay.
still an opinion.
But then the
Well, sort of.
line's blurred. So
I mean, we
like,
had a conversation about that.
that's just where I wanted to put the line. So, okay, if that's purely anecdotal, and then we have a middle ground where there's data-influenced anecdotal presentations, and then you have purely data. So there's like
Yeah, there's
categories
different.
for me. That's how I like to divide and compartmentalize things. So, yeah. Okay, interesting.
I looked up
Interesting
and
ways of labeling all of it. Huh.
Mm.
Making me
I
think.
sometimes like to look up, like, see if there's articles on whatever our topic's going to be, and one of them that I did come across says how we define anecdote as it relates to analytics, and one of the definition for them was an anecdote is a description of a data point that goes beyond providing the metric that is being collected.
Boom.
Yes.
So I
That's
guess
the same
how-
the
that's
stars with the blurbs.
With the reviews, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you can review comfort level and whatever, but once they give you a little bit extra, that's what.
Again, going back to what we're saying, layering both of them to get to
Yeah.
a certain point.
But that's good. So that defines the terms so that you can then break up and and provide the amount of influence that you want to, I guess.
Exactly. How much influence do you want to provide? How much do you want a person to think that your opinions or your knowledge is valid to their decision making?
Which is tough because that depends on the relationship, I guess. And then you get to the point where like I would tell some friends, like, don't buy that car, like don't, like don't. And then some of them you just maybe go, well, I've heard some negatives.
Yeah, and it depends on your friendship. It depends on the superficiality of the interaction.
Yeah, I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but that phrase comes out every now and then.
And I feel like that also happens in different steps, right? You're going to tell the coworker that just walked in, your brand new coworker, something like that. I haven't heard of the best reviews.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to tell us, do not buy that piece of shit.
Yeah.
It took me 18 days to get it back from the shop, and I had just bought it. You know, you're going to, your levels of comfort, your levels of, are going to be different.
Yeah. And I guess that's where you push your influence. And I think, you know, the random sources like social media and stuff like that, when we see that's such sketchy ground, man, because there's people out there pushing their opinions super hard
as facts.
Yeah, as facts. And they have, when you dig in and you think, is this really a reliable source? Like, is it? No, really? No. They don't have a blue check mark. Like, no, I don't know. This is how we weigh the balancing act of that kind of source data, information, all information, anecdotal or otherwise.
I think that's why it's up to the person, essentially, you have to do it yourself. You have to learn, not learn on your own, but you have to do the digging, right? And then that's why it's important to also communicate with another person for their information. That way it gives you an idea of what to dig.
And being comfortable having made the wrong decision. Like,
I know, now I really want to go put those shoes on.
Not blaming the review because the review said it was comfortable or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, opinions aren't facts.
Nope.
All right.
But can be valid.
Yes. All right. I guess that's about it. Anything else?
Oh man, it's pretty good.
No, it's okay. I was gonna say what our occupations are in case people haven't.
Did you want to reveal our occupations, or it doesn't matter?
Sure.
Yeah, mostly if you're not a repeat listener, I'm a music educator.
That's fancy. I'm a speech pathologist.
I'm Jose. I'm mechanical engineering.
Very nice. Yeah, I usually like to keep them out because I don't know how it influences biases or not, but yay. All right. Next episode, actually, we haven't exactly decided, but it's between two. Maybe I'll put a poll as to what
we should talk on.
Yeah, it's either going to be on political correctness or if marriage is outdated.
Ooh.
So that'll be an interesting
one. The nitty-gritty.
Please visit our website, www.omni-versal.com. Email us questions, comments, fan mail, hate mail, info@omni-versal.com. Twitter, see if we can get a blue check mark. Just kidding.
It's going to cost you $8 a month.
Yes, that's okay. As long as we're verified. Just kidding.
Yes.
Sign up for our emails and check out our...
But like some kind of feedback would be fun. I mean, you know, for our 12 listeners, what do you need from the
gas station?
From the gas station. All right, guys.
Right.
Thank you, Jose, for joining us.
Thanks, guys, for having me. It's fun.
Did you guys see the video? We didn't let Krampus participate this time, but Krampus was in the room with us.
Yeah, I'm sure he's opinionated.
Yeah,
he's got two mouths.
Those damn children. Just kidding. All right. See ya.
Bye.